Imagine being summoned in another world as a hero, but instead of treating him with kindness, they used him as a weapon and a tool. After defeating the Demon King, instead of being sent home, he got stabbed in the back and killed by the very people that summoned him. In the year 2045, Earth had already fallen into chaos as monstrous creatures dominated the battlefield, forcing humanity into a desperate and prolonged war for wartime survival. Massive beasts with grotesque forms descended without warning. Amid the destruction, Hansung moved Amen through the battlefield with precision, leading what remained of his forces against an enormous entity, radiating dark energy. Its towering body crushed soldiers effortlessly, while its attacks tore through defensive lines, leaving only a handful of survivors struggling to hold their ground. Continuous clashes pushed the soldiers to their limits, and exhaustion spread among the remaining fighters as the creature relentlessly advanced. Hansung maintained control of the situation, directing movements and firing upon the enemy with calculated timing, ensuring his team could continue resisting despite heavy losses. The battle intensified as the monster unleashed a violent surge, knocking soldiers aside and closing the distance. In response, Hansung stepped forward, refusing to retreat while others faltered behind him and continued engaging the enemy at close range. During the final exchange, an unexpected phenomenon emerged as a radiant magical circle appeared before him, interrupting the flow of battle and signaling a sudden, unknown turning point. A sudden surge of golden light interrupted the battlefield, forming a massive circular portal that radiated unfamiliar energy. Hansung noticed the phenomenon immediately as the glow expanded, pulling his attention away from the ongoing fight. The surrounding soldiers hesitated, unable to comprehend what had just appeared in the middle of the chaos. Before anyone could react properly, chains of radiant energy shot out from the portal and wrapped tightly around Hanung's body. The force lifted him into the air, restraining his movements completely as the battlefield faded from his sight. In an instant, the war-torn landscape disappeared, replaced by a silent and enclosed space filled with dim light. Moments later, he found himself standing before a group of robed figures led by an elderly man. The atmosphere felt controlled and deliberate, far removed from the destruction he had just experienced. The man explained the situation with calm authority, revealing that Hansung had been summoned as a chosen individual meant to defeat a powerful enemy threatening their world. Confusion quickly turned into realization as Hansung understood he was no longer on Earth. The request carried heavy expectations, offering him a chance to return home only if he succeeded. After a brief moment of thought, he accepted the role, marking the beginning of another inevitable battle in an unfamiliar world. Years passed as Hansung devoted himself entirely to the Empire's demands, enduring countless battles and completing every mission assigned without hesitation. Continuous expeditions hardened him, and repeated combat against dangerous enemies turned him into a relentless warrior who no longer questioned orders. Time moved forward through years of constant fighting, eventually leading to the defeat of the Demon King, a victory that required immense sacrifice. Just as he reached the conclusion that everything was finally over, a sudden attack struck him from behind, signaling that the struggle was far from finished. Severely wounded, Hansung struggled to remain conscious as the truth behind the Empire's intentions became undeniable. The general stood before him, acknowledging his service only as that of a disposable weapon. Recognition came too late, as the promise of returning home had never been genuine from the beginning. Strength faded quickly, while the final strike was delivered without hesitation, ending his life on the battlefield he once fought to protect. Despite understanding the inevitable betrayal, resentment burned within him as everything he endured lost its meaning in that final moment. Darkness followed, yet it did not last long. That same night, a new life began elsewhere, far removed from the war he once knew. A child was born into a noble family. Gradually, fragments of memory returned as he grew, allowing him to recognize familiar faces connected to powerful figures within the Empire. The realization became clearer as he identified the environment and lineage he now belonged to. Rebirth confirmed that fate had given him another chance. This time, he possessed both knowledge and position. With a new identity tied to authority and power, Hansung prepared himself for a future where he would no longer be controlled. Inside the noble chamber, the newborn remained unusually quiet, despite showing no signs of weakness or distress. Those around him grew concerned as his calm behavior did not match that of a typical child, prompting closer observation of his condition. Careful examination confirmed that his breathing was stable and his body healthy, yet his silence continued, creating unease among the attendants. Suggestions were made to provoke a reaction, leading to rough attempts to force him to cry, but the child resisted even then. Watching from above, the noble couple showed contrasting reactions with curiosity and mild concern rather than fear. His stillness was interpreted as stubbornness, hinting at a strong will rather than illness. Despite repeated efforts, the child refused to respond as expected. Eventually, the mother intervened and took him into her arms, stopping further unnecessary actions. A gentle touch replaced the previous force, and the environment shifted from tension to calm memories of past battles, and loneliness resurfaced briefly, contrasting sharply with the comfort he now felt. For the first time since his previous life, emotion overcame his restraint, and he finally began to cry. not from pain, but from a forgotten sense of warmth. 8 years passed since Hansung was Dale, growing within a noble household that provided both stability and access to knowledge. His daily routine revolved around studying, especially books related to magic, which he pursued with unusual focus for his age. Within the estate, his parents observed his habits with mixed reactions, noting his intelligence while remaining cautious about certain forbidden practices. Restrictions were placed on dangerous fields of magic, yet his interest continued to deepen as he quietly developed his understanding. Late one night, a sudden disturbance interrupted the calm atmosphere inside the mansion. Servants rushed in panic as unusual energy spread through the study, drawing immediate concern from his parents. They quickly moved to investigate, sensing something unnatural occurring nearby. At the center of the incident, Dale stood surrounded by unstable magical energy that had formed without guidance. The power reacted violently, causing damage to the surroundings and alarming everyone present. His mother rushed to him while his father analyzed the situation with growing suspicion. Careful observation revealed that the child had unconsciously released mana far beyond normal expectations. Though he appeared unharmed, the display confirmed his abnormal potential, leaving his father certain that Dale possessed extraordinary abilities that would shape his future. As Dale continued growing within the noble estate, restrictions around forbidden magic became clearer, especially regarding necromancy. Despite his father's stance, his thoughts remained fixed on gaining that knowledge, driven by memories and unresolved purpose from his past life. As a grand banquet gathered nobles from Dukedom across the region, the large hall filled with conversation and anticipation while Dale remained seated above, observing the event with little interest. Attention gradually turned toward him as the celebration progressed, yet he appeared distant, burdened by thoughts unrelated to the occasion. The contrast between his current life and former existence made the attention feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable. Reflection on recent events revealed his growing curiosity toward necromancy, especially after noticing his own unusual abilities. He quietly considered ways to convince his father, though each possibility seemed unlikely to succeed. As the moment for his appearance arrived, his mother approached with a composed expression. Alongside her stood a cloaked figure whose presence carried authority and mystery, drawing immediate attention. The individual was introduced as a high-ranking mage affiliated with a powerful institution. Her arrival marked a turning point as she was designated to guide Dale's future, signaling the beginning of his formal path in magic. During the celebration, Dale quickly understood that his training would be directed toward water magic under the guidance of a high-ranking mage. Although the arrangement appeared beneficial, he recognized that it was meant to steer him away from darker forms of magic. Shortly after, he was taken outside the estate to speak privately with his new teacher. Away from the noise of the banquet, the quiet surroundings allowed a more direct evaluation of his intentions and abilities. The teacher observed him carefully, already aware of his hidden interest in forbidden magic. Details about his family's past revealed why such knowledge was restricted, as a promise had been made to prevent him from inheriting dangerous teachings. This condition shaped his current path, making access to necromancy nearly impossible through normal means. Despite these limitations, Dale remained determined, questioning the distinction between different forms of magic and analyzing their principles logically. His perspective showed a level of understanding beyond his age. Surprising his instructor, recognizing his potential, the teacher shifted focus toward practical development rather than restriction alone. She began guiding him through the basics of magical growth, explaining the importance of forming a stable mana structure. With this direction established, Dale prepared to advance his abilities, seeing this as the first step toward achieving his long-term goal. Under the quiet guidance of his teacher, Dale began his first formal training by focusing his attention on the center of his chest. Following the instructions carefully, he attempted to sense the flow of mana surrounding him, gradually drawing it inward. This world's environment allowed mana to exist in abundance, yet controlling it required structure rather than force. Instead of absorbing it directly, he gathered small fragments and guided them toward his heart, forming a controlled pathway as instructed. Careful concentration allowed him to assemble those fragments into a rotating structure, stabilizing the flow within his body. The process, which normally required extended practice, progressed rapidly as his understanding aligned with his previous experience. Observing from nearby, his teacher expected slow results, assuming it would take weeks before any visible progress appeared. However, the formation completed almost instantly, exceeding normal expectations and disrupting her assumptions. Without hesitation, Dale tested the newly formed structure by releasing mana outward. The energy responded smoothly, flowing through his control without instability. Unlike his previous life, where magic required external tools, his current body handled mana naturally. This difference allowed him to refine control more easily, marking a significant step forward as he began shaping his abilities toward future mastery. Dale concentrated the mana flowing through his newly formed circle and directed it outward with controlled precision. Instead of allowing the energy to disperse, he compressed it into a solid structure, shaping it into a sharp crystal-like form. The result reflected both stability and intent, showing that he could maintain the integrity of mana beyond basic release. Careful execution followed as he launched the condensed energy toward a distant target, The projectile moved quickly and struck with enough force to pierce through solid material, embedding itself deep into the surface. The impact demonstrated not only power but also accuracy, proving that his control extended beyond simple formation into practical application. Observation from his teacher revealed the unusual nature of his performance. Such precision and stability were not expected from someone at his stage, especially given the short time he had spent training. The ability to maintain structure after release indicated a level of understanding rarely seen even among experienced practitioners. Standing calmly after the demonstration, Dale showed no signs of strain or confusion. His composure suggested that this level of control came naturally to him, reinforcing the idea that his growth would continue far beyond normal limits. After completing his first spell, Dale's control over mana continued to display unusual stability. Drawing attention from his teacher, careful observation revealed that the structure he created did not resemble basic magic, but rather a refined system with precise internal balance. Closer inspection of the spell showed that it contained multiple layers working together, including controlled rotation, acceleration, and regulated flow. These elements align with advanced principles normally taught at much higher levels, indicating that his execution was not accidental. While the magic itself appeared simple on the surface, its internal composition demonstrated a level of understanding beyond what an inexperienced learner could achieve. The efficiency of the spell allowed it to maintain its form and effectiveness without collapse. Later, the situation was discussed within the estate where his father reviewed the test results, alongside the teacher. The explanation confirmed that Dale had not only formed his first mana circle, but had also applied it immediately in a complete and structured spell. Recognition of his talent led to a shift in perspective, as his abilities could no longer be treated as normal development. The conclusion became clear that Dale possessed exceptional potential, placing him far beyond expectations for someone at his age. Inside the estate, a tense discussion unfolded as Dale's future became the center of disagreement between his father and his teacher. Concerns about control and growth were raised, especially after witnessing his abnormal talent. While Dale remained outside, unaware of the full details. Sitting alone in the hallway, he reflected on his recent actions and the unexpected results of his magic. Realization settled in as he understood that his abilities had already exceeded normal limits, forcing him to reconsider how carefully he needed to act moving forward. Moments later, a familiar figure entered the estate, immediately shifting the atmosphere. The man, a seasoned knight and close ally of the family, greeted Dale warmly and displayed a level of familiarity that contrasted with the earlier tension. Their interaction revealed a more relaxed side of Dale as he responded with ease and recognition. The reunion suggested a connection built through trust, offering a brief break from the pressure surrounding his abilities and expectations. Beyond the estate, the world remained unstable as monsters continued to threaten human territories, creating constant danger despite temporary peace. Within the estate, a brief moment of calm followed the earlier tension as Dale interacted with those around him. The presence of a trusted knight brought a lighter atmosphere, while his father acknowledged recent achievements and ongoing responsibilities tied to protecting their domain. Soon after, his mother arrived and expressed pride in his rapid progress, reinforcing the recognition he had begun receiving from others. Surrounded by both authority and care, Dale stood at the center of attention. Yet his thoughts moved carefully as he considered how to act without exposing too much of his true intentions. Rather than revealing his deeper goals, he chose to respond in a way that maintained his image as a child, diverting attention away from anything suspicious. Later that night, the city settled into quiet, but his awareness remained sharp. Memories of his past life surfaced again, reminding him of the danger that still existed beyond his current safety. Far from the estate, unknown figures spoke of his existence, indicating that powerful forces had not forgotten him. Their intent suggested pursuit and eventual conflict, confirming that his new life would not remain peaceful for long. Late at night, Dale lost control of the mana circulating within his body as it surged violently beyond his limits. The energy gathered uncontrollably around his heart, causing intense strain as his body struggled to contain the unstable flow. Pain increased rapidly, signaling the onset of a dangerous mana rampage that could lead to irreversible damage. Recognizing the severity of the situation, his teacher arrived and assessed the instability with urgency. The mana had reached a critical state where external interference carried significant risk, yet leaving it unchecked would be far worse. The imbalance reflected not weakness but an overflow caused by his rapid growth. Before the situation worsened further, intervention became necessary. Through precise control, his teacher stabilized the rampaging energy, guiding it back into a manageable state. The violent surge gradually subsided, leaving Dale unharmed but visibly affected by the experience. Afterward, she explained the nature of his talent, emphasizing that his magic mirrored his inner state and carried influence beyond simple spells. This realization highlighted both his potential and the danger it posed. As a result, she entrusted him with a forbidden text, marking the beginning of a path that would shape his future in ways no ordinary training could achieve. A few days after their arrival, Dale and his master stood outside the northern gate plains, surrounded by the cold stillness of the snow-covered forest. The winter scenery was quiet with no signs of life except for the breath of the two figures. Dale, curious, noticed a rabbit moving between the trees. His eyes brightened as he recognized the creature from his past. His master confirmed it was indeed a rabbit, a perfect target for training. Encouraged by his master's words, Dale focused his mind. Recalling old hunting memories with his father, he began casting a spell, magical energy forming a blue glyph in his palm. With a surge of magical energy, Dale released his spell at the rabbit. Lightning swirled around him as he attempted to strike with accuracy and control. The attack cut through the air and the force of his magic burst outward. The rabbit narrowly avoided the strike, dodging the hit while a trail of destruction carved through the snow behind it. His master observed in silence, analyzing the result. Despite the overwhelming force, something was wrong. He quietly murmured Dale's name, concerned by the magic's instability. His master questioned Dale about his understanding of magic's nature. Dale admitted he did not know, seeking guidance. The master explained that magic reflects the caster's mind. It is a mirror of one's inner thoughts, not just energy. He emphasized that magic reveals who the caster truly is. He continued explaining how even structured spells like Firewall are simply mental constructs used to give shape to magical will. Dale listened closely, absorbing the deeper truth behind spellcasting. The lesson shifted toward the philosophies of magic towers. The red magic tower valued strength and enforced order through dominance. In contrast, the blue magic tower valued harmony and balance, channeling their magic in ways that reflected calmness and unity. The master explained that each magic tower's beliefs shaped their magic system and that beyond red and blue, green and black towers also existed with their own ideologies. Dale was visibly confused, unsure how to understand the complex philosophies. His master realized the topic might still be too advanced for him. The narrative shifted to necromancy, introducing its basic form, raising a zombie. A corpse began rising under the control of mana. The art involved using mana threads to animate dead flesh. Guided by his master's instructions, he connected the strands to the rabbit's head, spine, and knees, the key points for control in necromancy. As the threads took hold, the corpse reacted. A bright glow emerged from its core as the mana activated, bringing the rabbit's lifeless body under Dale's control. The undead creature opened glowing red eyes. Dale's master acknowledged his success and asked if he was ready for the next trial. Dale answered without hesitation. Dale began casting a new spell, Frozen Armor. A magic circle spun above him as blue energy wrapped around his body, forming thick layers of magical ice protection. In an instant, ice spikes formed around the reanimated rabbit, protecting it with a shield of frost. It stood ready, its body completely covered by enchanted ice. His master raised his hand to test the defense. A bolt of magic shot forward, heading directly toward the frozen creature to measure the spell's strength. The bolt struck the rabbit's armor, sending shards of ice flying. Despite the impact, the spell remained intact and successfully deflected the attack. Dale, thrilled, realized he had fixed the Uberfurtier, successfully blocked his master's strike. His confidence grew as he smiled and declared his success. His master praised him, acknowledging Dale's achievement with a rare compliment. The young prodigy clenched his fist proudly, feeling the progress in his growth. Noticing Dale's expression, the master asked if there was something he wanted to say. Dale quickly admitted that he had a request with a hopeful expression. Dale shared his desire to receive further instruction. He wanted to learn how to better control water, attribute magic. Hearing this, the master smiled slightly, amused by Dale's ambition and eagerness to improve. To Dale's surprise, the master declined his request. Dale was confused, unsure why he had been refused. The master explained that what Dale had used so far was only the basic level of water magic. It was a foundation, not mastery. He continued by saying that water attribute magic, like all forms of magic, required deeper understanding. Its true potential could only be unlocked through advanced learning. Dale's master explained that for most beginners, understanding two types of magic was difficult. To handle two attributes effectively required what was known as a dual maenge, which was rarely seen. For someone Dale's age, mastering one attribute was already a challenge. His master found Dale's eagerness admirable but also premature. Despite the warning, Dale felt misunderstood. His ambitions were sincere. He reminded his master that they had only been together briefly, and he was determined to prove himself. The conversation left the master surprised, ending the lesson abruptly. She dismissed him for the day, not expecting his level of determination. That night the study was silent. Dale walked in it alone, carrying stacks of books, unwilling to let the day's outcome define his growth. With determination burning in his eyes, he promised himself that he would prove his potential. There was nothing he couldn't accomplish alone. He pushed himself through magical theory, casting spells late into the night. He believed that if he advanced far enough, his master would have no choice but to teach him more. The next morning, Dale appeared exhausted. His master asked if he was all right, and Dale admitted he had stayed up, preparing something. Despite her concern, the master warned him not to push himself too far. Dale respectfully acknowledged her concern and began casting again. He summoned mana and reactivated the ice armor on the reanimated rabbit. It formed quickly, proving his mastery of the spell with an added variation. He incorporated another spell. The moment it activated, the ice armor violently shattered in a powerful blast. The explosion burst in all directions, ice shards flying with destructive force. It caught even the master by surprise. She stared in shock, realizing that Dale's magic had evolved into an advanced form. an ice explosion embedded within his defensive spell. As the smoke cleared, the undead rabbit appeared through the mist. The magic had not ended. Dale had more planned, and the spell was not finished yet. The undead rabbit pulsed with unstable mana, its body reacting violently. Dark energy surged from its core as it began its final transformation. Suddenly, the creature exploded with a powerful burst, merging dark and ice energy in a devastating combination. The blast spread outward in a brilliant violet light. The sheer force of the combined magic stunned Dale's master. Her wide-eyed expression showed disbelief. This was no ordinary spellcraft from a student. The explosion triggered a magical reaction in the surrounding area. Arcane hexagonal patterns and ice shards expanded into a structured formation. Surrounded by the activated magic array, the master remained still. She quietly processed the magnitude of what had just happened. Dale calmly stepped forward and explained the spell was a hybrid. He had fused a corpse explosion with an ice explosion by combining water and dark attributes into one unified magic. With both elements in hand, Dale stood proudly, channeling water in one palm and darkness in the other. A confident smile crossed his face. A violent blast broke apart the still quiet of the icy plains. A corpse exploded within the snow, releasing a surge of frost and mana that spread across the terrain. Nearby trees trembled while fragments were hurled outward in jagged arcs. Kettle watched the aftermath with widened eyes, studying the strange formation of the magic. It wasn't an ordinary spell. The blast had merged with leftover ice armor, increasing the force beyond standard corpse-based magic. The outcome was deadly. Frozen shards and skeletal pieces flew like knives through the region, cutting anything caught in their path. It was a calculated blend of necromancy and elemental manipulation that astonished even Kettle. Kettle remained still, lost in contemplation. The magic mirrored something only a war-hardened mage, one who abandoned normal life for battle, might create. The mix of brutality and efficiency stood out sharply. Helmet, the dark-haired knight, quietly assessed the mindset of the boy who created it. For someone so young, such a destructive visualization was hard to grasp. It showed a terrifying level of potential. At that moment, a voice interrupted the silence. The boy Dale happily rushed toward Helmet. Behind him, several riders approached on horseback. One man greeted them, explaining he had returned from a mission inside Kaden's central dungeon. The man stated that the Black Cavalry had stepped in. Their involvement had been essential to clear the dungeon, which contained more danger than expected. Their organized assault ensured success. The narration emphasized the Black Cavalry's power warriors equipped with aura-charged lances. Recognized as the Saxon Duke's elite unit, they were respected throughout the continent. At their head stood Sir Helmet, a swordmaster ranked among the continent's top 7 strongest. His mere presence inspired confidence in allies and fear among enemies. As the group got ready to separate, Dale reminded Helmet about their earlier promise to start sword training. Excited to begin, the boy gazed up with anticipation. Helmet gave a faint smile and reassured him. Dale's passion for power and discipline turned the promise into something beyond formality. It became a true commitment. After that, Dale climbed onto a horse and waved farewell, telling Helmut not to stay too long in the cold. The others observed him depart with admiration. Sunlight poured down as Kettle looked toward the younger boy still beside her. With the mission finished, it was time to head back to the estate. Back at the estate, an instructor assessed Dale's fast improvement. He had already grasped foundational circles in both necromancy and water magic, an uncommon pairing for someone his age. Another noble woman stressed the necessity of continuing his development. The boy's unique talent wasn't only raw strength. It was refined, thoughtful, and highly strategic. Kettle sat facing Lord Noir and Lady Elena, confirming her initial role had been limited to teaching Dale water magic. Even so, she suggested the boy's interest had expanded well beyond the fundamentals. Kettle stated that as Dale's mentor, she couldn't refuse his desire to explore deeper magical paths. Although the original plan focused on one element, Dale's ambition had naturally grown. Glancing toward the doorway, Kettle quietly added that if Dale truly wished to pursue further, she would support his choice without hesitation. Lady Elena, worried yet composed, politely asked Kettle to keep Dale's training centered on water magic. Her words were gentle, but her intention was unmistakable. Kettle agreed immediately, vowing to look after and guide Dale from then on. She reassured them that the boy's safety and growth would remain her priority. As she stepped away from the table, Kettle halted, troubled by the choice she had made, one that slightly strayed from her earlier promise, pausing mid-step. Kettle turned back toward Lord Noir and offered a heartfelt apology for breaking their previous agreement. Her face remained calm yet filled with regret. Lady Elena exhaled and eased the atmosphere, proudly recognizing Dale's remarkable abilities. She grasped her husband's hand, overwhelmed by their child's swift advancement. Lord Noir confessed that Dale's strength occasionally unsettled him. Despite his concerns, he reminded Elena that Dale was still their son and deserved an unwavering support. With a steady inhale, Lord Noir revealed his sincere wish to pass forward his legacy in war and necromancy. He intended to guide Dale along the very path he once pursued. He imagined Dale not merely as a spellcaster, but as an individual able to command the dark arts without hesitation or disgrace. He held himself responsible for necromancy's decline and wished Dale would restore it. Burdened by remorse, Noir offered an apology. He desired Dale to inherit both his power and his purpose. Elena stayed quiet, though her steady gaze never shifted. Elena eventually spoke, her tone soft yet unwavering. She accepted that Dale should be raised into a necromancer who could stand with pride regardless of society's judgment. As they held each other, Elena gently asked for her husband's complete devotion to their child's future, urging him to promise he would never falter. Noir answered firmly. He vowed to give everything he possessed to shape Dale into the finest, honoring their shared dream as devoted parents. Dale's first day of specialized necromancy training began under his father. Lord Noir. Disappointment lingered on Noir's face as he criticized Dale for recklessly raising the dead without true understanding. Noir continued scolding his son, emphasizing how perilous it was to practice necromancy without control or comprehension of the forces he was manipulating. Annoyed, Dale defended himself. Noir, unimpressed, immediately brought him to the hidden magic workshop beneath the castle. Within the dim candlelit room, Noir announced that Dale would not cast a single spell until he completely understood the structure of living organisms. The initial step involved memorization. Dale was ordered to study anatomy, mastering details of bones and muscles across species, an exhausting task demanding total concentration. After reviewing countless medical texts and memorizing every illustration and term, Dale finally met his father's expectations and was allowed to begin practical necromancy. With a serious look, Noir revealed the authentic training manual and declared the beginning of Dale's real instruction. Dale answered with unwavering focus. His first practical assignment was reanimating a goblin corpse. Though startled, Dale stayed attentive. Understanding this tested both his knowledge and skill. Noir explained that unskilled necromancers could only create mindless zombies from strong bodies, whereas gifted ones could turn even weak corpses into powerful undead. Displaying a lifeless undead soldier, Noir challenged Dale to show how he would control it. The atmosphere grew tense as dark energy filled the space. Dale lifted his hand, forming a magical circle around himself. Flickers of uncertainty and fear appeared in his eyes as he tried to concentrate. Sweat streamed down Dale's face. He possessed strength, but this differed. Controlling something unstable, like an undead, required precision rather than raw power. Abruptly, the undead lunged forward, charging at Dale with violent force. The spell had been cast incorrectly, causing the creature to move erratically. It felt as though Dale had released a savage beast. He struggled to restrain it, his magical energy spiraling out of control. The situation quickly worsened. Lord Noir intervened calmly, halting Dale before he completely lost control. He reminded his son that power without direction was dangerous in necromancy. Lord Noir continued, teaching, explaining the flaw in Dale's earlier attempt. It limited the corpse's movement. Dale listened carefully as his father prepared to correct it. Noir released a wave of refined necromantic energy. The corpse twisted unnaturally as layers of energy reshaped it, creating a more flexible and agile form. Dale watched in amazement. Noir adjusted the corpse with precise control, altering it beyond its original form while maintaining perfect command. The alteration continued. Noir explained that rib cages protected vital organs in life, but the undead had no such requirement. He dismantled and reshaped the bones. With a surge of energy, the rib cage expanded outward, reforged into curved blades. The undead soldier now resembled a weapon more than a former creature. Noir highlighted the principle. Mastering anatomy enables a necromancer to reshape corpses according to intent. Dale absorbed the lesson, a flicker of ambition igniting within him. Noir finished the demonstration. He explained that such flexible manipulation formed the core of black magic, a doctrine exclusive to the traditions of their family lineage. Inspired by what he witnessed, Dale lifted his gaze and asked his father to teach him the mindset of the Noir magic tower. He sought more than technique. Desiring its philosophy, Noir gave a faint smile, acknowledging his son's resolve. That instant became a significant shift in the dynamic between mentor and pupil. Dale questioned the essence of necromancy. Noir replied while kneeling, saying that truth resides within death, an idea extending far beyond simple spellcasting. He clarified that to truly comprehend necromancy, one must understand death itself, including the burden and sacrifices tied to the life preceding it. Resting his hand on Dale's shoulder, Noir conveyed their family's creed. Only by accepting the weight of life could they pursue genuine truth. Elsewhere, a warrior stood upon a battlefield engulfed in flames. Firelight glimmered in his cold eyes as he advanced toward a kneeling opponent. The fallen man pleaded for mercy, calling him a hero. His voice quivered as he begged for his life amidst the destruction. Ignoring the pleas, the warrior lifted his sword without hesitation. His face stayed emotionless, his verdict absolute. The blade fell as the begging persisted. A memory of bloodshed and a desperate plea lingered in Dale's thoughts. The vision of a frightened figure, pressing their hands together before death, etched deeply into his mind. Returning to the present, Lord Noir gently set a hand on Dale's shoulder. Worried by his silence, he asked if Dale was all right, noting his pale and shaken state. Dale remained silent at first. His lips tightened, his gaze lowered. The feelings within him were too tangled to express in words. At last, Dale forced himself to answer. His voice quivered as he spoke, yet the weight behind it revealed the truth. Images of a stern warrior resurfaced in Dale's thoughts. That same figure had spoken those words before, cold, rigid, and empty. Dale repeated the statement again, more firmly this time. I am fine. Still, as he sat alone in the darkness, the magic circle beneath him pulsed softly, reflecting the turmoil inside. As Dale's mystical training progressed each day under the supervision of Duke Saxon, his mastery over dark magic gradually strengthened. The force he commanded started to evolve beyond normal limits for someone his age. Rumors of Duke Saxon instructing his successor in dark magic rapidly circulated throughout the empire. It directly broke his long-standing promise never to teach forbidden arts. This controversy ignited significant outrage within the imperial court. The nobles shifted their focus toward Dale, the center of the issue, and began observing him carefully, viewing him as either a danger or an asset for their personal goals. Several weeks later, within the dungeon's training area, Dale's fighting abilities were challenged. His eyes showed resolve as he engaged a skilled adversary, his wooden blade meeting firm resistance. Though younger Dale matched the experienced knights, his reflexes were sharpened, and the balance between his physical and magical training was evident as he maintained his position. Even under intense pressure, Dale did not waver. His opponent quickened the tempo, yet Dale answered with a surge of mana that interrupted the incoming attack, gaining a short advantage during the spar. As the match went on, Dale confronted another knight using a wooden sword. Their actions were rapid and the tension grew stronger with each clash. Dale barely avoided a strong strike by lowering himself and rolling aside. He quickly retaliated, delivering a blow that forced his opponent to retreat. Seeing Dale's progress, the instructor offered a slight nod of approval. Dale's capability, even as a mage, was becoming impossible to ignore. In the last exchange, Dale's opponent suddenly released his weapon mid-motion, ending the spar. The action appeared strange to Dale, who immediately sensed something unusual. The knight complimented Dale's performance, but Dale doubted his honesty, believing the opponent had intentionally held back to test him. Still holding his practice sword, Dale voiced his suspicion. His gaze was sharp. He didn't want empty praise, only genuine improvement. The knight rejected the claim of holding back, stating Dale's combat approach was dangerously realistic, enough to overcome an average fighter easily. Dale tightened his hold, listening carefully. The knight acknowledged Dale's swordsmanship was remarkable, especially considering he was a mage. However, he reminded Dale of the truth. Mages were never isolated. Guard knights would always be present, meaning Dale's abilities, though strong, were still part of a broader system of defense. The knight noticed Dale's roughened hands and advised him to slow down. He questioned Dale's reason for pushing himself so hard despite already being a mage with protection. He showed concern that Dale was overexerting himself, particularly to the extent of risking harm during training matches. But Dale responded with firm determination, explaining that there was a purpose behind his efforts, clearly driven by something deeply personal. Dale stated that as a duke's son, it wouldn't be appropriate to depend only on guards or defensive magic for safety. He wanted to rely on his own strength. He added that learning directly from one of the continent's 7 great sword masters was a rare opportunity, something no one would ignore. The knight was touched by his response and laughed openly. He praised Dale's attitude, admitting that having a son like him would leave him without regrets. Their moment was interrupted by a voice behind them. Dale's mother had arrived. She smiled warmly at both, noting their cheerful atmosphere. Dale walked toward her and asked why she had come out into the cold. She answered that she wanted to see how hard her son was training. She then stated she had some information to reveal, sparking curiosity in Dale, who wondered what sort of news it might be. As Dale attempted to remember a recent request he had made, a memory resurfaced. He had once asked for a rather unusual birthday present. In a flashback, Dale had confidently declared he wanted a little sister for his birthday, surprising everyone with the odd request. His mother smiled and softly told him that he would now need to take good care of his soon-to-be sibling, confirming her pregnancy. Dale brightened with happiness and promised that he would look after his younger sibling without any hesitation. 10 months later, the scene shifted to the family's room, where Dale sat beside his mother and the newborn baby girl. As he looked at his sister's sleeping face, Dale admitted that it still felt unreal to have a little sister, something he had once wished for so innocently. Dale glanced down at his newborn sister and smiled, completely fascinated by her innocence. He softly whispered how adorable she was, overwhelmed by a new feeling of affection. Their mother gently offered Dale the opportunity to hold the baby for the first time. He was surprised by the suggestion and nervously hesitated. Encouraged, Dale finally agreed and carefully took the baby into his arms. To his surprise, it wasn't as difficult or frightening as he had imagined. As he looked at her face, his mother pointed out how much the baby resembled him. Dale was left speechless, unsure how to respond. His mother commented how the baby always cried when others carried her, but not when Dale did. It was clear the newborn felt comfortable with him. Still holding her, Dale gently leaned closer and observed her, forming a bond that was already beginning to grow stronger. Their father asked Dale how it felt to hold his sister. Dale answered honestly, saying she felt light physically but somehow heavy in meaning. He elaborated further, describing a sense of weight not on his arms but on his heart, as if her presence carried responsibility and care. With a gentle smile, his father told him that what he felt was the weight of life, something he should never forget. Duke Saxon reminded Dale that it was time for his training lesson. Dale quickly handed the baby back and followed, ready for the next challenge. His instructor, a blue-haired elf, stood waiting in the snowy training grounds. She declared that today's session would involve real combat. Dale hesitated briefly, asking if he truly had to fight seriously. The instructor replied firmly, telling him to come at her with full strength. Dale gathered his mana and activated a spell, preparing himself for a direct clash with his master. The instructor immediately launched a counterattack, curious to see how much Dale had progressed in power and precision. Her first evaluation came quickly. His opening strike was too slow. She blocked him with ease, preparing to exploit his weakness in the next move. Dale's instructor raised an ice crystal and criticized his hesitation. She challenged him to stop holding back against her just because she was his teacher. Dale's expression changed. He stood firm, silently, preparing for a serious counterattack, no longer treating the match lightly. Without warning, his master released another wave of magic. Dale quickly reacted, clashing with the overwhelming force using his own defensive spell. Though he managed to shield himself just in time, Dale realized how dangerous the attack had been. One moment later and he could have been injured. His quick response impressed the instructor. She noted how Dale had instantly formed an ice armor, a skill that usually required more preparation. She encouraged him to continue and attack again. Dale calmly prepared for his next spell, stating the incantation for a stronger ice-based formula. As he activated his magic, a glowing barrier of ice began to rise around him, forming a massive curved wall of protection. His instructor was surprised. Casting a defensive wall mid-battle was unexpected and required precision and composure under pressure. She observed quietly, beginning to realize this was not merely a defensive maneuver. There was something more behind Dale's tactics. Upon closer inspection, she noticed how the density of the ice had been greatly enhanced by Dale's control over mana. She wondered why he would switch to defense after launching a decent attack. Her mind raced through possible explanations. Then she paused. The air shifted slightly. She sensed something forming within Dale. The structure, something hidden behind the icy walls. Inside the wall, Dale activated another Formula 1 designed for fragmentation. It wasn't just a barrier, it was a setup. With cold focus, he gave a single command: detonate. The spell was designed not to protect, but to trap and explode from within. As realization struck, his instructor's eyes widened in shock. Dale had turned a defensive spell into a magical grenade, flipping the flow of battle instantly. The moment Dale's spell exploded, a surge of radiant frost energy engulfed the area. His instructor stood at the center of the blast, surrounded by blue light and flying shards of enchanted ice. Glowing impact points flared across her body, striking with pinpoint accuracy. Each orb of force destabilized her defenses as the fragmentation magic activated in full force. Dale's experimental spell burst across the snowy hillside, creating an explosive surge of magic and ice. The impact violently shattered the wall of frozen energy, confirming the proper activation of his complex formula. Studying the explosion, Dale realized the technique compressed the ice molecules into a dense state before detonation. Because the ice wall was already strengthened, the compression caused it to act like a magical grenade. His pure excitement quickly faded. As the smoke cleared, Dale noticed his master, Sophia, wasn't moving. Rushing through the snow, he called out in panic, fearing the power of his magic might have injured her. Sophia suddenly appeared beside him, unharmed, casually answering his worried call. Her presence was calm and smooth, as if nothing had occurred. Dale gasped, startled by her sudden appearance. The figure he had seen earlier must have been a magical illusion created to test his reaction under real pressure. Sophia, observing the aftermath of the explosion, acknowledged the power of Dale's magic. She praised his technique, recognizing its unique design and accuracy. Sophia admitted she never expected a basic ice spell could be altered to such a destructive extent. The ability to harm even a high-ranking mage like her was proof of Dale's development. Dale, feeling guilty, explained. He never intended to hurt her, but Sophia reassured him she was thankful. It showed he trusted her enough to cast without restraint. She explained that the injury symbolized trust and confidence. Dale's use of his full strength meant he no longer feared holding back during training. CPI admitted that as his mentor, she felt great pride. Seeing his growth confirmed her guidance and teachings. Dale blushed at the compliment and humbly credited everything to her. Instruction. His formula had been built upon the foundation she gave him. Sophia smiled quietly, touched by his words. For a moment she couldn't reply later. Sophia stood before an elder. He questioned the wound on her cheek. Surprised by her condition, she explained it came from Dale's magic during training. His spell formula had been unexpectedly powerful, sharper than she had expected. The elder acknowledged her devotion, grateful for her efforts. Sophia remained silent, proud of her student's accomplishment. Sophia stood before the Duke at night, expressing how teaching a talented student like Dale brought her personal fulfillment. The Duke, however, had more serious matters to address. He asked Sophia for one final favor, prompting her curious acceptance. The light mood quickly shifted as duty took over the discussion. The Duke revealed that a group of orcs had crossed the mountain pass into their territory. While not an urgent threat, he hinted at a deeper purpose behind the meeting. The Duke declared his plan to send Dale into the field during the orc conflict. The idea immediately shocked Sophia. Sophia protested, insisting Dale was not yet ready for real combat. She feared the danger was beyond what he could manage. But the Duke clarified Dale would not be sent to the front lines. His role was symbolic, defending House Saxon's legacy and learning responsibility as its heir. The Duke firmly stated that as his successor, Dale needed to accept duty. There would be no exception, even for his own son. Sophia, understanding the seriousness of the Dean request, asked what role she would take in this mission. The Duke revealed his plan to entrust Dale with a powerful artifact, a tool that carried both great potential and great risk. He instructed Sophia to mentor Dale until he mastered the artifact. It was not a common object, but one that could shift the balance of battle. The artifact's nature was perilous, powered by mana or life force. It required great sacrifice from its wielder and could even be deadly if misused. The trio stood before the sealed vault containing House Saxon's artifacts, where generations had preserved relics of legendary strength. Inside the vast hall, the Duke formally informed Dale of his responsibility to prepare for the approaching battle as the house's heir. Dale, though initially surprised, brightened with excitement at the mention of a real battle. The moment he had long awaited had arrived. Clyphia and the Duke explained his role in the subjugation force to defeat the orc threat. But before that, the Duke hinted at one final step: preparation beyond just excitement. Before Dale could enter the battlefield, the Duke explained that he must first learn to control the power of darkness that flowed through their bloodline and ancestral legacy tied to demonic energy. Sophia guided Dale into the artifact vault, revealing rows of relics left behind from when their ancestors conquered the Demon King's domain. Dale was stunned at the overwhelming presence of power. The Duke warned Dale not to compare these to ordinary artifacts. Their dangerous mana signatures were proof of their destructive strength, and handling them without mastery could be fatal. As the Duke and Sophia spoke, they noticed Dale had disappeared. Both scanned the room in confusion, unaware he had wandered off on his own. Moments earlier, Dale had quietly slipped away in search of an artifact that suited him. He wandered deeper into the vault, following his instincts. Drawn to whispers, Dale approached a glowing artifact. It seemed to speak directly to him, sensing his hidden anger and offering him power in exchange for vengeance. The artifact's voice grew stronger, urging Dale to choose it. It promised shared revenge and power beyond imagination. If only he would pick it up. Dale stood among the artifacts, their dark energy reacting to his inner resentment, but he hesitated. None of them felt truly right. His attention was drawn by a mysterious black cloak, as if it had appeared from nowhere. Dale was attracted to it by a sense of deep familiarity and strength. Examining the cloak, Dale realized it was no ordinary relic. It was the legendary Shadow Cloak, once wielded by a Duke of the Demon King's army. The cloak granted its user the ability to manipulate shadows, making them nearly invincible in battle. Dale's excitement grew as he prepared to test it. Eager and unaware of the risks, Dale wore the cloak immediately, activating its dormant powers with a smile. The Duke and Sophia noticed too late. As the artifact activated, the hall burst with energy. They shouted his name in alarm, but Dale was already engulfed. A surge of dark mana surrounded Dale. The cloak reacted violently, forming a vortex of shadow as the artifact fully awakened. Within the shadows, a voice echoed hungrily, repeating its desire. The entity inside the cloak had awakened, so it begins. The cloak Dale had worn wasn't bound to simple magic. It housed a shadow creature once used to summon devastating storms of darkness during the Demon Wars. To control such power, Dale had to do more than wear the artifact. He needed to dominate the creature within and force it into submission. As shadows surged, Dale stood firm, facing the monstrous entity. It roared, resisting him, testing whether he was worthy to wield its strength. Outside the storm, a swirling sphere of dark energy formed around Dale. Sophia and the Duke watched, concern increasing. Sophia feared for Dale's sanity. If he couldn't subdue the shadow creature soon, he would be consumed from within by the very artifact meant to aid him. Realizing the danger, the Duke decided they might need to intervene by force if Dale showed no signs of recovery. Just as Sophia prepared to act, a burst of light erupted from the sphere. Dale's silhouette emerged as the energy began to settle. Remaining calm, Dale stepped out of the vortex. His father called out, and Dale responded, clearly unaffected by the ordeal. Sophia rushed to check on him. Dale, now wearing the activated cloak with ease, reassured her he was completely fine. Sophia expressed her relief, surprised he had endured the process. Dale brushed it off, saying it only stung slightly. Internally, Sophia and the Duke wondered how a mere child had not only resisted but tamed such a powerful artifact. Curious and excited, Dale asked his father if he could try out more artifacts. The Duke, stunned at the request, gave him permission. Dale's innocent question caught both adults off guard. They were left speechless at his eagerness for testing even more dangerous relics. Eventually, the Duke granted him access. Dale ran off happily into the vault, eager to explore the remaining items. Thus began Dale's long exploration of the Saxon family's legendary artifact collection, an adventure that lasted through day and night. At the ducal training field, Helmut observed with astonishment as the young Airedale arrived wearing an unfamiliar garment. The object was instantly identified, a notorious magical artifact called the Shadow Cloak. Widely regarded as unstable and hazardous, Helmut inquired about Dale's state, aware the cloak was famously challenging to manage. Despite its threatening reputation, Dale calmly reassured him that he felt normal, noticing only a slight tingling sensation after putting it on. Himpo, curious about Dale's answer, remarked on how unusual the cloak's reaction seemed. Perhaps, he suggested aloud, the artifact had remained unused for too long and was responding to fresh contact. Dale explained that as soon as the cloak touched him, it latched on firmly, almost as if it acknowledged him. The creature-like presence radiating from the cloak produced a sentient reaction resembling a connection. With a subtle grin, Dale wondered if the cloak merely desired companionship. The dark tendrils wrapped gently around him, creating a contrast between the boy's purity and the cloak's sinister aura. Helmet chuckled, cautioning Dale that such compassion might be risky. Still, beneath his firm tone, he was clearly impressed by the boy's nature. Dale, smiling sincerely, expressed gratitude for Helmet's concern abruptly. Dale made a request. He asked Helmet to spar with him. Not an ordinary match, but one treated as serious combat training. Helmet was briefly taken aback by the proposal, but agreed without delay, motivated by Dale's eagerness and bold confidence. With blade in hand and energy circulating, Helmet readied himself for the duel. Dale stood resolute, vowing to give everything he had and prove he could handle true strength. As the fight commenced, Dale felt the immense pressure of confronting Helmet, one of the 7 sword masters. Even Helmet's mere presence alone felt daunting. Noticing Dale's hesitation, Helmet reassured him he would refrain from using aura techniques. He would rely solely on fundamental sword skills, offering the boy a fair opportunity. Dale grasped the implication. Helmet planned to hold back. Even so, Dale sensed the burden of demonstrating his ability in this challenge. Dale recalled the knight's principle to fight with honesty. However, his real goal was not solely victory. He intended to test the shadow cloak under real combat conditions. Numerous shadowy tendrils erupted from the cloak, shaping into weapons. Dale moved rapidly, utilizing the summoned forms to initiate a fierce assault. Naming the technique Shadow Blade Rush, Dale launched a synchronized strike. The shadows rushed toward Helmet, serving as the first true test of the artifact's combat power. As the clash escalated, Helmet delivered a powerful counterattack. His sword struck against the flowing shadow energy, scattering the incoming assault through sheer strength. The collision shocked Dale. He had not anticipated Helmet neutralizing the attack using only physical power. It highlighted the swordsman's pure strength and vast experience. Even after the failure, Dale stayed composed. Surrounded by the cloak's tendrils, he studied his opponent carefully. Helmet, meanwhile, laughed loudly, relishing the challenge developing before him. Helmet, now completely engaged, advanced with intense force. His intention was evident. He was prepared to push Dale to his limits. Dale reacted quickly, readying his next action. His gaze sharpened with determination as Helmet's sword approached. Else, utilizing the Shadow Cloak's agility, Dale dodged and retaliated. Shadows surged upward like tides, attempting to intercept Helmet. While airborne, Helmet was briefly surprised by a concealed attack. Shadow blades burst from beneath him in an unexpected pattern. Despite the abrupt assault, Helmet stayed calm. He praised the maneuver as intelligent and remarkable, particularly from such a young challenger. Dale continued pressing forward, repositioning swiftly through the cloak's power. His movements became smooth, persistent, and increasingly difficult to follow. Helmet delivered a powerful downward strike, aiming to shatter Dale's defense completely. The blow carried enough force to slice through hardened steel effortlessly. Dale responded at the last second. With intense effort, he lifted a barrier of shadows to absorb the strike, his body forced backward by the impact. The features fractured beneath Dale's stance, yet he remained steady. Helmet, clearly impressed, realized the young heir had stopped a blow capable of breaking ordinary weapons easily. Dale remained prepared. Protected by the cloak, he understood the vast difference between standard equipment and the artifact now under his control. As they collided, once more their actions blurred with speed. Dale's assurance grew stronger with each successful clash. The feature-watching knights whispered in astonishment. None among them had endured more than 2 exchanges with Helmet, yet Dale persisted, displaying a level far beyond their capabilities. On the day of departure, Dale stood beside his mother beneath the night sky. Worried, she offered once more to speak with Duke Saxon. Unwilling to send her son into harm, even with her concerns, Dale reassured her that his father and Uncle Helmet would accompany him. He explained that he needed this opportunity, even if it involved danger. Gazing up at his mother with determination, Dale shared his resolve someday. He would bear the responsibility of the dukedom. To achieve that, he needed strength gained only through trials. Dale's request was heartfelt. He wanted to become strong, enough to defend his loved ones. His words reached his mother, who could only listen with a heavy heart. After a brief pause, she smiled softly and accepted. Her eyes reflected both pride and concern, recognizing the growth within her young son. With her consent given, Dale made ready to leave. His mother offered her blessing, sending him off with hope for his safe return. Seated atop his horse, Dale vowed to come back soon. With his squad assembled behind him, the operation officially commenced. The soldiers advanced in formation, Dale now leading them, rode ahead. This marked his first true battle, and it was his responsibility to guide the knights onward. Resolute, Dale embraced the responsibility. These knights were no longer merely troops, they were under his command. This time he would fight not as a child, but as a leader. When the order was issued, Dale rallied House Saxon's cavalry. His voice carried confidence and the knights answered together. The 250 riders surged forward at full pace. Their objective was a group of approximately 1,000 orcs positioned near a ravine. To surprise their opponents, Dale planned to cross the lower Satan River and strike unexpectedly. However, the river's depth created a major challenge for the cavalry. As the troops paused near the riverbank, someone stepped forward, Master Sophia. She calmly began casting a spell, presenting a solution. Dale's astonishment, Sophia conjured an enormous bridge of ice. Her precise magic and timely arrival allowed the army to continue without interruption. With the route secured, Sophia signaled for them to advance. Her assistance provided Dale's unit with a crucial advantage at the mission's beginning. Before the cavalry departed, Sophia wished the Duke's forces success. Dale's father expressed gratitude for her magic. Acknowledging her essential support, Dale mounted and prepared, glanced toward his mentor. With a bright farewell, he told her he was leaving. Ready to carry out the mission ahead, Sophia quietly watched him ride across the frozen bridge she had created. Her expression grew thoughtful as she murmured how strange it felt to worry so deeply for a student. Standing alone upon the icy bridge, Sophia gazed after the departing figures. Despite her calm appearance, unease lingered within her heart. She softly admitted the unexpected truth: Dale had awakened something within her that few others ever had. His determination and actions weighed heavily on her mind. At dusk, a makeshift orc camp settled within a forest clearing glowed under scattered firelight. Rough tents circled several flames, oblivious to hidden threats nearby. The land formed a shallow basin, reducing sight lines and making it perfect for a sudden ambush. Concealed past the ridge, an elite ranger force called the Winter Wardens prepared their assault. Wearing dark cloaks, they silently positioned bows in unison, waiting patiently for the signal to unleash a coordinated strike against unaware orc forces. At the signal, numerous flaming arrows streaked through the air like blazing comets, raining down upon the orc camp with lethal accuracy. The carefully planned ambush had officially commenced. Bursts of fire and concussive force detonated throughout the encampment as arrows landed. Tents ignited instantly while orcs were thrown into confusion. The unexpected barrage allowed no time for organized response as chaos quickly spread everywhere. A few orcs attempted resistance, but many fell before acting. One massive orc, pierced through the shoulder by an arrow, bellowed fiercely, refusing defeat while rallying a counterattack despite the surrounding disorder. From afar, a commander shouted fresh commands. The cavalry division was to begin the next phase immediately, launching a direct charge to exploit the enemy's disorganized state. Mounted warriors assembled into a wedge formation before charging forward. Their lances tilted ahead as horses surged with synchronized speed, transforming their movement into a devastating, penetrating force. A knight glanced toward young Master Dale, proudly commenting on their velocity and impact. With armor and physical mass combined, they were advancing at speeds exceeding 40 kilometers per hour. Dale quietly assessed the collision force. Understanding the immense destructive capability of heavily armored cavalry striking a scattered enemy formation, as their lances aligned and magical energy surrounded each weapon, the devastating power of the Coal Lance formation became evident. Every thrust now carried both physical weight and enhanced magical force. The unit would reorganize before launching repeated charges in cycles to gradually shatter the enemy's defensive lines. A radiant magical flare erupted into the sky, casting a vivid blue illumination over the battlefield. The signal cut through darkness, warning allied forces of sudden danger. Fear spread across the front as a knight urgently commanded retreat. The unexpected flare indicated a threat beyond control, prompting immediate withdrawal among the soldiers. During the retreat, orcs paused in confusion at the abrupt change. Their glowing red eyes scanned the battlefield, trying to comprehend why the humans had suddenly fallen back. One knight, failing to escape quickly enough, turned to face the pursuing orcs. His blade clashed fiercely against a powerful incoming strike. Despite resisting, he was ultimately overpowered. A savage spear thrust pierced through his side, breaking his armor as blood sprayed outward, and he collapsed from the impact. From a distance, a hooded boy silently watched the knight's fall. He remarked that the result was unfortunate, but made no effort to intervene immediately. Helm, an experienced knight, stood beside a dark-haired boy and a noble woman. Remaining composed, he simply acknowledged the fallen knight without visible emotion. The boy, identified as young Dale of House Saxon, questioned their inaction. He noted that a knight belonging to their house had been abandoned to die openly before their enemies. Dale's anger intensified as he observed the injured knight dragging himself painfully. He demanded an explanation for why nobody was stepping forward to defend one of their own. Understanding the urgency, Dale quickly evaluated the circumstances. He realized pursuing on horseback would require too much time, giving the orc the opportunity to attack first. With intense concentration, he started forming a magical equation. Aware that orc's skin was far tougher than average, he adjusted the Ice Bolt spell to enhance both accuracy and penetration. He incorporated trajectory adjustments and heightened the spell's intricacy. His gaze sharpened as mana gathered rapidly around him, displaying complete determination without any sign of doubt. The finished spell, Ice Bolt High Precision Variant, manifested through a radiant magic circle. Energy coiled around him powerfully as the spell reached full activation. The projectile shot upward before descending rapidly as a beam of light. It hit the orc perfectly, piercing straight through its chest with exceptional precision. Helmet commented on the technique's strength and accuracy. while others remained stationary. Dale mounted his horse and advanced alone. Helmut deliberately chose not to intervene. The noblewoman surveyed the battlefield with amazement. Astonished by Dale's performance, she turned toward Duke Saxon, voicing admiration for the young boy's magical talent. Duke Saxon, composed yet firm, explained that Dale had created a unique spell at such an early age, an achievement considered extremely rare. He highlighted its destructive magnitude as evidence of Dale nearing mastery of his inner realm. Dale, quietly moving across the battlefield, remained unaware of the admiration behind him. His attention stayed fixed forward, mentally preparing himself for the next challenge. As Dale reached the location, a towering orc advanced behind it. Surviving orcs began reorganizing into combat formation, restoring the threat once more. Dale understood the escalating danger. Two issues confronted him. First, his body had momentarily stiffened in fear earlier, exposing his lack of experience. Second, his earlier spell had been overly lengthy and complicated for rapid use. With time running short, Dale required a quicker casting method to respond efficiently. He immediately started optimizing the formula, simplifying it, much like reducing complex mathematical expressions. With urgency, he compressed its structure while maintaining its effectiveness. The orcs advanced closer as Dale refined his spell. A new, shorter, and more efficient formula formed in his mind. He called it Ice 98 Magnum. Though he hesitated briefly, although still somewhat lengthy, he accepted its imperfections for now, maintaining composure and focus. He prepared to unleash it without further delay. Dale's eyes shone brightly as mana surged outward. A fresh magic circle appeared beneath him, sharp and icy. He spoke the incantation, Ice Bullet. The luminous projectile shot forward through the air toward the approaching orc. The fallen knight gasped, shocked by the immense power used to protect him. The icy strike landed precisely, destroying the orc instantly. Frost expanded outward in swirling patterns as the immediate danger was eliminated. The knight remained seated, stunned, staring directly at Dale. He questioned why someone of Dale's rank would endanger himself for an ordinary soldier. Dale dismounted and walked forward calmly. His expression stayed steady as he responded with composed confidence. He quietly replied. He refused worry. Standing beside the knight, his actions conveyed more than status or authority. He chose to safeguard his comrade. Dale remained resolute, eyes shining with resolve. In a calm tone, he declared that House Saxon never forsakes a faithful blade. His statement carried profound meaning. The knight, still kneeling, gazed upward in shock behind him. Additional orcs advanced, their roars reverberating throughout the cavern. As the orcs rushed forward, Dale's expression grew stern. He lifted his glowing hand, silently preparing another spell with lethal focus. Dark power swirled outward as Dale activated a different spell, Shadow Blade. Black tendrils erupted forth, surging toward the incoming enemies. The shadow blades carved through the orcs' front ranks with deadly accuracy and strength. Violet energy dispersed behind them, slicing through everything caught within their reach. With unsettling composure, Dale directed the shadows to devour his foes. The orcs, now shaking in fear, stared helplessly as the approaching magic drew closer. Dark tendrils coiled tightly around the orcs, pulling them into a consuming void. Their cries ended quickly as a spell engulfed them one after another. Without mercy, the remaining orcs attempted to flee in terror. However, the conjured shadows showed no compassion, swiftly striking down any survivors and silencing them within seconds. With all enemies eliminated, Dale grinned toward the knight and joked, questioning why he remained to him. The conflict had already reached its conclusion. To conclude matters, Dale casually cast Ice Bullet again. The final attack ensured that every remaining threat had been completely eradicated. Looking back, Dale calmly announced the battle finished. The knight observed him silently, still too shocked to form any response. Trained to rise, the knight discovered he lacked strength in his legs. Dale offered a sheepish grin, realizing the aftermath of battle had affected him more severely than expected. Helping support the knight, Dale smiled as they returned safely together. A sense of relief settled over them. Following the intense and exhausting confrontation, Dale entrusted the situation to Sir Helmut. The knight commander accepted the instruction while the cavalry remained assembled behind them, awaiting further direction. Sir Helmut lifted his blade and inspired the troops forward. The soldiers advanced in unison, shouting loudly for House Saxon and for young Master Dale. Shortly afterward, at Saxon's encampment, the conflict had ended, and peace settled across the frozen landscape beneath torchlight. Dale was called by the noble woman observing earlier. She acknowledged the victory over the orcs before becoming serious. Seated across from Dale, she explained she had summoned him for a personal inquiry rather than a formal report. Her expression sharpened as she questioned why Dale had advanced alone into hostile territory. Concern filled her voice as she pressed him about acting so carelessly despite his significance. Dale stood before Duke Saxon, his father. After returning from the battlefield, the Duke questioned why Dale had rushed alone into enemy lines, his tone sharp and disapproving. The flames nearby flickered, reflecting the tension in the room. In response, Dale calmly stated that he acted because the Knights of House Saxon were his future responsibility. He believed it was his duty to protect them regardless of the risk. Duke Saxon dismissed Dale's reasoning as insufficient, challenging his son's logic, and revealing that the motive behind the boy's actions lacked the strategic mindset expected of a leader. Dale's inner thoughts revealed his confusion. He couldn't understand why his father, once known for caring deeply, now seemed so cold and indifferent to a knight's death. When Dale questioned why his father didn't step in to save the knight, Duke Saxon explained that knights were trained to risk their lives, and that such sacrifices were an accepted part of war. The Duke emphasized that those on the battlefield must not expect rescue. Hoping to be saved, he said, weakens a knight's ability to survive and act under pressure. Duke Saxon challenged Dale again, asking how many knights with such hopeful mindsets had actually survived. Dale was left speechless, realizing the harsh truth in his father's words. Saxon explained that only when the knights had exhausted their strength would he personally step in. Until then, they must learn to survive on their own. Dale silently accepted this harsh truth. Despite remembering it from a past life, he had briefly forgotten the cost of leadership in a land shaped by conflict. Still, Duke Saxon acknowledged Dale's independent choice. He praised his son's bravery, telling him never to lose that spirit despite the earlier criticism. Dale accepted the praise quietly while the two prepared to return to the castle. The difficult lesson had left a mark on him, blending honor and pragmatism. Outside, sunlight broke through the forest as Duke Saxon led Dale back. Their relationship strengthened after the trial of fire and command. News of the young heir charging into a horde of orcs spread quickly. The story became the Empire's newest and most exaggerated gossip. Rumors claimed Dale had slain 1,000 orcs alone to save a single knight. Though exaggerated, the tale captured attention across the land. Though Dale found the attention embarrassing, the event inspired pride and renewed energy throughout the Saxon Duchy, strengthening its unity and resolve. A few days later at the Saxon training grounds, Dale arrived to find the knights warmly greeting him. Their tone showed deep respect as they recognized his courage and growing reputation. Although overwhelmed, Dale smiled and modestly told them that such formality wasn't needed. The gesture showed his humility despite his rising status. One of the senior knights encouraged Dale to stand proud. It was clear the knights were now looking up to him as more than just a noble heir. They saw a true leader. A commanding voice rallied the trainees, urging them to become stronger for the future of young Master Dale. The group responded together, filled with motivation. Dale quietly observed their enthusiasm and felt both surprised and grateful. Their passion reflected the impact his actions had left on the knights of the Duchy. Just then, a knight informed Dale that guests from House Orhart had arrived. Dale turned and thanked Eve, a close companion, for the message as he prepared to receive the visitors. Dale sensed the importance of the moment. House Orhart's arrival was not an ordinary visit. It carried political and emotional weight. He recalled the legacy of House Orhart, once led by the famous divine sword Bartle. This house had been a major force in the fallen Teutonia kingdom. When the Empire waged its unification war, Bartle perished and House Orhart was destroyed. Helmet's sudden change in expression hinted at painful memories tied to the fallen house. Dale and Helmet entered the royal audience chamber with the Duke. Sensing tension in the air, the meeting ahead promised to be difficult. Duke Saxon, seated on his throne, greeted Dale and praised his discipline. His tone remained formal as he acknowledged the young heir's training. With the guests now present, the Duke instructed Dale to receive them respectfully. The responsibility of representing the house now rested on the boy's shoulders. Two figures approached swiftly, Vanessa Orhart and her elder escort. Their arrival without guards or ceremony was quietly impressive. Vanessa stepped forward confidently and introduced herself with dignity, expressing honor in greeting Duke Saxon. Duke Saxon calmly replied with a formal welcome. As the two houses faced each other, the tension of old histories and uncertain alliances filled the hall. The Orhart patriarch introduced his daughter Charlotte Orhart. Her fierce expression contrasted with the calm tone of her introduction. Surprising the others in the hall, Charlotte responded, addressing her mother, but without warmth. Dale was taken aback, struggling to grasp the meaning behind her distant tone and intense glare. Suddenly, Charlotte questioned her father, demanding to know why he bowed before the Saxons. Her defiance caused an immediate stir in the court, with tension rising. Duke Saxon responded sternly to Charlotte's outburst, clearly displeased by her attitude. He emphasized the hardship her family had endured to reach this moment of peace. To ease the situation, Dale was asked to escort Lady Charlotte around the castle. He agreed politely, hoping to calm the uncomfortable mood. As Dale reached out his hand to guide her, Charlotte refused sharply, her face twisted with anger and pain. She warned him not to come closer. Charlotte lashed out with sudden force, yelling not to touch her. Her aggressive response shocked Dale and caused a disturbance in the audience hall. Dale stepped back, confused by her emotional outburst. The tension visibly affected everyone from the nobles to Duke Saxon, who observed silently. Charlotte's gaze was intense, yet her inner conflict was clear. She turned and stormed out of the hall, leaving everyone in stunned silence. The Orhart patriarch called after his daughter, urging her to apologize. His voice carried both urgency and embarrassment. But Charlotte didn't stop. Dale looked on in confusion while her father scolded her for her actions. Still, Charlotte walked away in frustration, ignoring all calls to return. The Orharts were left to explain her behavior. Her father asked for forgiveness from the Saxons, expressing that her emotions had become unstable recently. Duchess Saxon asked for clarification. The Orharts revealed that a new overseer, Count Brandenburg, had recently taken control of their lands. Count Brandenburg, a feared imperial enforcer known as the Red King, was infamous across the Empire for his cruelty and strength. His reputation as the Empire's holy knight made him a terrifying presence. The weight of his authority had clearly affected Charlotte and her family deeply. The Orhart Patriarch revealed the horrifying reason behind Charlotte's trauma. Count Brandenburg, now stationed in their lands, was rumored to seek strong heirs by violating any talented swordsman or woman. Charlotte had narrowly escaped his grasp. Though safe for now, the mental scars were deep, and the weight of fear remained. Her father's voice trembled as he recounted how powerless he felt to stop it. Acknowledging his weakness as a fallen noble, he pleaded with House Saxon to accept Charlotte as a maid. It was a desperate attempt to protect her from ever being near that man again. Charlotte found herself at the training grounds. Her steps were quick and filled with frustration. Dale watched from a distance, unsure of her intentions. She ignored his concern and headed straight for the combat area. When Dale asked where she was going, she answered briefly that she didn't care. Dale noticed her hand, likely still hurting from earlier. When he asked if it was all right, Charlotte dismissed the question. Dale could only watch, silently, wondering what pain still troubled her. Without warning, Charlotte charged forward, her sword cutting through the air. Her sudden movement caught Dale off guard. She stopped in front of him and demanded a duel. Her tone was firm, leaving no space for argument. The urge to fight wasn't born of rivalry, but emotional release. As she formally challenged him to draw his sword, Dale stood confused. A nervous smile appeared on his face as he realized she wasn't asking, she was insisting. She was acting purely on impulse, not logic. In a snow-covered training field, a white-haired girl confronts the boy known across the Empire for his power. She demands a duel, standing firm with her blade raised. The boy, remaining calm, refuses without giving a reason. He smirks faintly, without interest. Even after hearing her mention the rumors about him, his legendary feat of saving a knight by slaying 1,000 orcs alone, memories flash back of that fierce battle as he cut through the enemy, protecting a helpless knight. The scene earned him silent respect, but he simply brushes off the praise with a modest expression. The girl declares she will defeat the undefeated Prodogy of the Dukedom. Her goal is to prove her strength to the world and surpass even the strongest. She vows to protect her house from a looming threat, Count Brandenburg. Her tone reveals a personal mission tied to family pride. The boy instantly recognizes the name. His expression darkens as he recalls the traitorous knight who once stabbed him in the back under imperial command. He quietly admits they share the same enemy. While she might make a good ally, he decides she needs to understand her limits first. With swift steps, he approaches the training ground. Blade drawn, the girl watches in confusion. Unaware of his intent to test her resolve with sharp clarity, he declares she is still a child unfit for war. His stance becomes serious as he prepares to face her fully. She answers fiercely, already committed to fighting. Her grip tightens and her energy begins to rise, glowing with focused power. She lunges forward, sword arcing in a trail of bright energy. Their blades clash violently as he counters without hesitation. The duel intensifies. Her relentless assault creates shockwaves in the snow as their skills collide with equal force. Blades strike rapidly, the girl parries and retaliates with clean, fluid movements. Her form shows trained precision. The boy notices her aura usage, though faint, it's there. She pushes her limits to match his pace. She channels aura like a seasoned knight, surpassing ordinary human boundaries. Their duel becomes more than a test. It's a clash between futures destined to fight the same enemy. Iris, eyes glowing with determination, leaps into the air and unleashes a powerful slash from above. Her blade cuts through the wind, enhanced by visible aura. With sharp precision, she closes the distance. Her attacks heavy and refined. Dale responds in time, deflecting the incoming force before it lands cleanly. Her strikes continue faster and sharper. Dale observes silently. He now understands she's not just emotional. She's a knight forged through purpose and pride. Iris smirks as their blades clash again. She believes she now holds the advantage, reading his movements with growing confidence. Memories surface. As a child, Iris was raised with her mother's tales of her father, the Divine Sword. Though she never met him, she inherited his mission. Bearing the duty of his legacy, she charges with renewed strength, shouting her identity, the daughter of the Divine Sword. But in the very next clash, her sword is thrown high into the sky. She stares in disbelief as it falls far from her reach. Her hands tremble. She questions her defeat, confused why all her effort isn't enough. Dale gives her the answer calmly. He tells her the truth. She's not her father. Her pride is admirable, but it isn't strength enough to protect her house from Count Brandenburg. Dale's words hit harder than any strike. Iris stares at him, shaken. He reveals how the Holy Sword's power remains 10 times greater than hers. Desperate, she asks what she must do. She remembers her training, how she never stopped, even as her kingdom collapsed. Yet, despite her relentless resolve, her blade continues to be stopped again and again by Dale, the boy who should be far beneath her legend. Iris rushes forward, pouring all her energy into a final assault. Her sword arcs through the air, screaming with raw aura, but Dale moves with ease. His footwork, his stance, they show no hesitation. He's not just fast, he's precise with a calm but decisive motion. Dale parries her strike. The duel ends not in noise, but in undeniable difference experience versus pride. Charlotte, worn from defeat but not broken, asks Dale what more she must do. Dale, with calm resolve, draws his sword and offers his name and house in protection. He solemnly swears as Dale of House Saxon to shield House Orhart until Charlotte becomes strong enough to challenge Count Brandenburg herself. Moved by the gesture, Charlotte quietly asks why. Dale answers simply because her sword has value. Charlotte is hesitant but touched. Dale requests one thing in return, that she become a sword for House Saxon. Tears forming in her eyes, Charlotte agrees. She kneels, lifting her blade in oath, and swears upon her honor as a knight thou young. Their promise is made with conviction. That day, it became more than just an agreement. It became a vow sealed by resolve. In the Duke's office, news of Charlotte's decision spreads. By her own request, she joins House Saxon as a retainer. The Duke is surprised by her acceptance. He questions what bond now exists between Dale and Charlotte. Dale answers clearly he vowed to protect her, not out of pity but by the name and honor of House Saxon. The Duke presses further, warning against invoking their name recklessly. Dale stands firm and calls Charlotte the Divine Sword's heir. He speaks with conviction, recognizing her potential. To him, their oath is not about nobility, but survival, forged to create a new divine sword for their Duke. The Duke is satisfied as Dale watches his father closely. He quietly notes the victory Charlotte Orhart now stands with them. With Charlotte under their roof, Dale knows they've struck a blow against Brandenburg. Her lineage gives them strength and hope. Meanwhile, far away in Malberg, the capital of Old Teutonia, Brandenburg receives the news with rage. Furious, he smashes the table beneath him. His anger confirms one truth. House Saxon has made its first real move in the coming war. In a grand chamber, Count Brandenburg erupts in rage after learning that House Saxon acted before him. His voice echoes as he slams the desk in frustration. He scolds his subordinates for their failure. Enraged they couldn't capture a single girl. Their excuse that assassins were killed en route only fuels his fury. They suspect Charlotte Orhart eliminated the attackers herself. Brandenburg, now furious, clenches his fist, realizing her strength is growing beyond expectation. As anger simmers, Brandenburg recalls his past glory with a sinister grin. His memories are filled with bloodshed and dominance. He looks down at the holy sword Duran resting in his grasp, reminiscing about victories it delivered to him during battle. With twisted affection, he addresses the blade. To him, Durand is both a weapon and companion for reclaiming power and crushing House Saxon. Driven by obsession, Brandenburg speaks to his deceased fiancée Faye's portrait, vowing to create the perfect heir in her honor. He commands his men to hire the Thieves Guild and dispatch forces into Duke Saxon's territory with no budget limit. His final order is chilling. He wants Charlotte Orhart captured alive, no matter the cost, revealing a dangerous fixation on controlling her future. 7 days had passed since Charlotte pledged loyalty to the ducal house. The grand corridors of the estate no longer seemed unfamiliar. Her routine now started before sunrise. Adapting to her role, she endured strict maid training. Her once soft hands became firm through constant practice and discipline. Along with her responsibilities came sparring with Dale. The young successor sword training turned habitual, their blades colliding beneath the cold winter glow. At their instructor's signal, the match commenced. Dale moved first, his posture composed and deliberate. Charlotte answered his approach with accuracy, the clash of steel ringing crisply throughout the courtyard. Their actions blurred as each strike met another counter, neither giving ground as the intensity heightened. The instructor watched silently, a hint of astonishment appearing in his gaze at their intensity. He wondered if they were truly children. Their speed resembled that of trained knights. Though still unrefined, their instincts and concentration revealed maturity beyond their age. Dale's abrupt change caught Charlotte unprepared. His sword sliced through the air with precise strength. She responded swiftly, deflecting the strike while repositioning her stance. The instructor stepped in, commending their exchange and noting Charlotte's remarkable improvement. However, Charlotte sought no praise. Her eyes sharpened as she questioned what she still lacked. The instructor clarified that a rapier's essence was rooted not in thrusting, but in movement. As she recalled Dale's earlier steps, realization struck precision, stemmed from balance and mastery from control. Helmut's firm voice allowed no argument. Charlotte's fundamentals required complete reconstruction. Though surprised, she listened as he highlighted her unstable footing and flawed stance. Resolute, she accepted the criticism, promising to refine her skills under his strict instruction. Time moved forward as Dale focused on advanced mana training with another mentor. Creating mana circles demanded intense focus and years of dedication. Still, Dale's advancement was exceptional. His control already matched experienced mages. Testing new techniques, Dale aimed to improve his Ice Bullet spell. He strengthened its internal structure and extended a larger channel to boost speed. The outcome was a formidable armor-piercing Ice Bullet. Destroying its target with accuracy, his instructor observed with amazement. Recognizing her student's rapid development, Dale attributed his progress to her teaching, though she knew his power stemmed from determination. From the battlefield to Charlotte's sparring, his actions always aligned with purpose. Despite his calm nature, his mentor's warmth occasionally caught him unprepared. Her praise carried affection and a sudden embrace that left him momentarily stunned. As morning light spread across the yard, Dale quietly reflected her trust. Both surprised and motivated him. As daylight settled, Dale thought about his mentor's unexpected embrace, uncertain of its meaning. He quickly set it aside, reminding himself that his training remained the priority. Gathering mana, he commanded the air. Ice surged outward, forming a solid barrier under his control. With steady breathing, he prepared another spell, his magic circle shining brighter than before. The ice bullet expanded, transforming into a larger, high-pressure form filled with intense energy. Upon release, the projectile pierced the frozen barrier, scattering fragments like glittering shards. The echo of the impact faded into the forest stillness as footsteps approached from behind. Charlotte emerged, intrigued by the glow that had lit up the sky. Dale turned, surprised to see her there. Both realizing they had been training separately in secret, Charlotte admitted her earlier harshness and lowered her head in apology. Dale accepted without hesitation, his usual calm softening into a faint smile. Their misunderstanding dissolved, replaced with mutual respect and quiet companionship. They walked beneath snow-covered branches, their breaths forming gentle clouds in the cold air. Dale spoke about finding comfort in the crisp atmosphere and steady practice rhythm. Charlotte listened, smiling softly, realizing that for the first time their paths aligned with the same purpose. Beneath the shelter of an ancient winter tree, Dale and Charlotte stood side by side. Snow drifted softly around them, marking the gentle flow of passing time. From a manor window, their parents observed quietly speaking in low voices about the years gone by, and the connection gradually forming between their children. Sharing knowing smiles, the mother resolved it was her role to guide her son toward his fate, even if affection was not meant to be part of it. Days afterward, near the borders of the Dusha, Dale's mother distributed food and medicine to the needy. Her kindness extended even into the bleakest places. Dale and Charlotte assisted her, handing out supplies to the impoverished, discovering humility through both gratitude and hardship. A young child rushed toward them, gasping with fear, calling for help. As danger approached, the boy begged, explaining his mother was in danger. Pushing Dale to act immediately, he sprinted through tight alleyways, his senses heightened by unease. Doubt quickly became certainty someone was behind this disturbance. Dale noticed figures hidden in darkness, members of the Thieves Guild. They surrounded Charlotte, revealing she was their real objective. While pretending to disregard him, Dale stepped ahead, his gaze unwavering, refusing to leave her behind. The leader issued threats, displaying a blade with a vicious smile. Dale spoke firmly, declaring his promise to safeguard the daughter of Orhart. The criminals laughed, ridiculing his noble resolve, unaware they had provoked the duchy's rising prodigy. Encircled by foes, Dale positioned himself before Charlotte as the leader taunted them. The atmosphere tightened, sharp as an unsheathed weapon. Despite Charlotte's concern, Dale comforted her calmly, his eyes reflecting confidence. He had anticipated the chance to test his abilities in real battle. The enemies advanced, unaware they had already entered the effective range of Dale's experimental spell. A violent surge of energy erupted, spiraling outward. The thieves stumbled as dark winds wrapped around them. Dale concentrated, controlling his elemental aura precisely. Panic spread among the enemies as they realized his power was far from ordinary. The leader shouted commands, but Dale's composed expression showed mastery over an invisible lethal force. Darkness warped along the ground, forming spectral blades that struck with frightening speed. His technique, shadow creation, brought forth shadow entities that attacked independently, trapping the thieves in suffering. Cries rang out as the summoned shadows overwhelmed them, leaving fear in their wake. The conjured being towered above them, craving life force. Its empty gaze locked onto the remaining enemies. The gang leader shouted desperate orders, but his men hesitated, trapped between terror and disbelief. Amid the confusion, Dale adjusted his stance, knowing hesitation could prove deadly. The leader's aura flared emerald, channeling destructive power through his weapons. Certain of victory, he executed his dual-blade technique. Convinced no defense could withstand it, Dale responded with double barrel. Combining shadow and force, 2 blasts of dark energy fired forward, shattering the incoming attack. The fight almost escalated as the enemy released another surge, forcing Dale to react with precision. He gathered mana into his weapon, forming a spell beneath him before unleashing a decisive strike. The attack broke through the leader's defense, sending him stumbling backward as Charlotte watched in stunned silence. The injured man stood once more, driven by rage and desperation. Though his body shook from the damage, Dale watched calmly, realizing the man's aura shield had prolonged his endurance. As the enemy lunged, shadows erupted again, consuming him before he could deliver another strike. The summoned entity raged uncontrollably, its hunger intensifying as the last foes were defeated. Dale turned towards Charlotte, ensuring her safety while restraining the creature with his magic. They stood together among the fallen, their bond strengthened through survival and trust. One surviving thief pleaded for mercy, offering information in exchange for his life. Dale listened briefly, then rejected the plea with firm resolve, ending the conflict without hesitation as silence returned to minors. His expression remained composed, another lesson learned in the unforgiving world of power and nobility. Dale and Charlotte moved along a Ranger street, their uniforms bearing the Saxon emblem. Around them remained traces of battle fallen, warriors and quiet reminders of overwhelming force. Charlotte pauses, her gaze lingering on the aftermath. Dale continues forward, composed yet weighed down by responsibility. As they stand before the fallen, Dale explains, "This is the real face of how Saxon feared widely yet powerful enough to defend those who stand with it." Charlotte confesses her fear, gripping her pendant tightly, though her shaking gradually subsides. She remembers how Dale once risked everything to protect her, and gratitude begins to replace fear. Lowering herself before him, she forms a silent promise. If his house becomes her shield, she will one day become the blade that fights for him. Her resolve becomes clear, she expresses. Thanks to Dale for helping her understand what lies ahead. Dale observes quietly, seeing strength where uncertainty once existed. The narration reveals part of Dale's motive for accepting Charlotte guilt, tied to a comrade lost long ago. Memories return of that fallen knight, Bartle, whose death still weighs heavily on Dale. Charlotte's decision to become his blade reflects that lost devotion. Their clasped hands represent a connection that carries deeper meaning than Dale yet understands. Elsewhere, within Count Brandenburg's estate, the Count strikes his desk in anger over a summons. He reads the message requiring him to appear before the Saxon Duchy to answer for previous actions. The Noir Duke's order signals judgment, one that will soon draw both Dale and Charlotte into the approaching conflict. Inside his shadowed study, Count Brandenburg studies the Duke's summons, its seal weighing heavily upon his thoughts. He realizes that even his status as the Holy Swordsman cannot excuse him from the Duke's authority. Days afterward, he reaches the Saxon Duchy castle, welcomed by cold stares and imposing silence. The Duke greets him from his throne, his presence enforcing quiet throughout the chamber. The Count bows rigidly, sensing the tension as murmurs spread among the nobles. The Duke addresses recent turmoil, the abduction incident that shook the Empire linked back to the Count's territory. The Count lifts his golden blade, defiance burning, as he declares his innocence. The Duke answers with dark energy, shadow power spreading across the hall. The Count's stance weakens as the overwhelming force surrounds him, shaking even nearby knights. Cries resound as dark flames engulf the guards. The Duke's power crushing all resistance. The Count watches in shock as even St. Milan's knights fall without resistance. The Duke's spell, Tempest of Nile, unleashes pure devastation, darkening the air with its presence. The Count drops to his knees, trembling, his sword slipping away. As the Duke's voice pierces the silence, the Duke issues a cold warning. One more mistake will bring no mercy. As the Count lowers his head in defeat, he understands the Duke's authority now surpasses all, both in power and fear. The Duke's aura forces the Count to kneel, his pride breaking under immense pressure from the throne. The Duke speaks of peace, yet warns that any harm toward his children will be met with destruction. The Count bows his head, trembling as he vows obedience, knowing his life now depends on the Duke's will. The Duke's voice softens slightly, offering rest after the confrontation. The Count declines respectfully, stating, "Urgent matters require his return." With a faint smile, the Duke permits his departure, hiding distrust behind polite words. The narration reveals the Duke's display of power was intentional, a warning to the Empire's loyal factions. Dale observes, realizing his father's actions will stir unrest among noble houses. This moment becomes the spark that will soon consume the Empire in conflict, born from pride and fear. In another chamber, news of the Duke's display spreads quickly. The Duke inspects the remains of those who attacked Dale, evidence of the boy's deadly strength. His companion, astonished, realizes Dale's abilities surpass normal human limits. The bodies remain shattered, proof of a ruthless battle. The elf instructor, Sophia, begins questioning her own teachings. After witnessing Dale's harsh power, the Duke praises Dale's potential and offers Sophia the role of chief advisor, tying her future to his rise. The Duke formally invites Sophia not only as teacher but as part of House Saxon itself. He explains Dale's reliance on her, urging her to guide his strength with discipline and balance. Accepting the responsibility, Sophia vows to understand Dale's perspective, realizing shaping his mind is as important as refining his power. Time moves forward and Dale's 10th birthday celebration fills the grand hall with nobles and envoys. Unlike earlier years, imperial representatives attend, their presence signaling growing political interest in the Saxon heir. Among them stands Marquis Eurus, his smile sharp with intent, showing that Dale's rising reputation has drawn the Empire's attention. A magnificent feast takes place deep within the northern lands arranged by House Saxon. Visitors admire the extravagant spread of food decor and sophistication rarely seen so distant from the imperial capital. Aristocrats raise glasses applauding the grace of the residents. Their remarks show amazement that such luxury thrives within this distant duchy. It is a calculated assembly, not merely entertainment. Yangale watches quietly. He perceives the burden hidden beneath noble laughter. This is not simple enjoyment. It is strategy cloaked in splendor. The imperial faction's attendance at the feast is deliberate. Dale observes their entrance as a silent warning, not simple etiquette. They bring intent from the Emperor's court, a caution against any defiant aspirations regarding secession. Before Dale stands the envoy Marcurus, a formidable and perilous noble tied to the Red Tower. Marcurus Uri addresses Dale, his tone courteous, yet his presence exudes overwhelming pressure. He presents himself with formal precision. Dale identifies him instantly, Lord Crimson, leader of the Red Tower. The man represents fire, discipline, and relentless ambition. Dale remembers disturbing visions of arcane trials. In his youth he had been among their experimental subjects. Horus speaks further with veiled superiority, labeling Dale the gifted heir of House Saxon. He mentions Dale's accomplishments, whispers of him alone, defeating orcs to defend his family soldiers. With a self-satisfied parting, Yuri departs, leaving Dale uneasy yet outwardly calm. Afterward, Dale strolls through a silent garden, pondering the emptiness of the celebration. Occasions like these have always seemed hollow. He longs to be near Charlotte, a servant he secretly cherishes, though outwardly she belongs in service elsewhere. Understanding the risk of being noticed with her, he turns aside only to hear a sharp cry shatter the night. Dale rushes toward the sound of distress. Within the garden, a red-haired noble grips a frightened maid, Charlotte. He mocks her, please, ignoring her claim of serving House Saxon. The aggressor tightens his hold, declaring a mere maid cannot claim the Duke's protection. His expression is vicious as he disregards her struggle. Dale arrives just in time to see the assault. His pulse quickens, anger surging as Charlotte is held helpless beneath the bastard. Drawing a weapon, the attacker threatens her further, using the ongoing celebration as a shield for his actions. He defends his behavior with warped reasoning, believing such acts acceptable during festivities. Dale intervenes, voice steady and eyes cold, stopping the attack with firm authority. Charlotte breathes out his name, recognizing her savior. The attacker falters, caught off guard. Pretending courtesy, he attempts to regain composure, questioning Dale's presence. Dale answers calmly yet firmly, challenging the man's authority and intentions. The assailant provokes Dale, doubting his strength and readiness to interfere. He ridicules Dale's naivety, offering to teach him through cruel implication. Dale remains composed, beginning to weave magic energy gathering at his hands. He assures Charlotte of her safety. Dale considers quietly. Most nobles assume those beneath them will never resist. He unleashes a forceful spell, sending Pro crashing away from Charlotte. Standing firm, Dale states his position plainly. He refuses to submit to anyone who endangers what he defends. Though knocked aside, Pro burns with fury. His rage deepens as he understands the consequences of challenging a direct noble successor like Dale. Yet refusing to concede, Pro insists on submission from Dale, expecting the youthful aristocrat to bow down. Dale remains resolute. He commands Petra to kneel and apologize to the servant, Miss Eve, leaving no space for refusal. Prodogy attempts to reclaim authority, arguing Eve stands beneath their rank. Dale calmly repeats her worth as part of House Saxon. Petra sees inwardly, offended by Dale's resistance. He proclaims his role as an envoy of the Emperor himself. Dale responds immediately, asking whether the Emperor supports mistreatment of women serving noble families. Redirecting the burden of fault back onto Pro, Dale issues one last warning. Now attracting attention from nobles nearby, he orders Petra once more to kneel. The onlookers whisper. Marquesas observes. Entertained, fascinated by the rising tension, a senior noble asks for clarification. Dale recounts Pro's attack on House Saxons made without pause. Another aristocrat accuses Dale of insolence, yet Dale remains unwavering. He still has not permitted Pro to stand. Dale reminds them that imperial representatives are meant to uphold the crown, not bring dishonor upon it. He highlights Petra and Saxons as disgraceful, insisting they damage the very reputation they were assigned to preserve. Dale proclaims Pro's behavior intolerable. His tone remains steady, and all attention is now fixed upon him. Yuri laughs softly, easing the strain, praising Dale's wit and recognizing the accuracy of his statements. He addresses Pro directly, declaring that one chosen by the Emperor must never lower himself so disgracefully. Marcus conjures flames within his palm, his face composed yet lethal as he prepares to discipline the culprit. Pro trembles in terror, scrambling backward, while Yuri advances without pause. Uras releases his spell, pronouncing Pro unworthy. The man cries out, pleading for mercy as flames swallow the area. The fire devour Petro brutally, his screams resounding while the nobles remain silent. Observers, Uras applauds Dale's bravery, asserting that removing corruption preserves the Empire's honor. He commends Dale's promising future and departs with a final comment. While Dale stands steady and resolute, once the Imperial incident faded, quiet settled over House Saxon. The Emperor's envoys departed, leaving lingering strain hidden beneath an appearance of calm. Inside the estate, morning light spread across marble corridors, marking a return to delicate tranquility. Within his room, young Dale slowly awoke at his maid's soft summons, the remnants of yesterday's turmoil still lightly weighing on his thoughts. Eve, the maid, wondered if he wished to speak. Her voice wavered between obligation and worry. Dale expressed gratitude, concealing the discomfort swirling beneath his composed demeanor. He noticed her hesitation yet remained silent. Recollections from 2 lives merged within him. Thankfulness felt unfamiliar, something distant to the man who had once fallen in war. Now Saxon's successor, Dale decided to make his second life meaningful. He swore to wield his strength and insight to erode the empire that had betrayed him. If his efforts could accelerate its downfall, he would act without doubt. In his father's office, Duke Saxon observed Dale's increasing calmness. The Duke's remarks challenged his son's newfound determination, questioning his unexpected awareness. Dale held his father's stare, cautious yet unwavering, protecting the secret of his reincarnation. His thoughts wandered to his former existence, the Empire's betrayal of its champion. He recalled their fear, their brutality, and the cost. House Saxon endured for its loyalty. Resolute, Dale pledged that while darkness persisted within Imperial lands, he would not rest until vengeance was achieved. Whispers spread across the Empire, labeling House Saxon as the Clan of Darkness. The Duke described how fear transformed allies into accusers, distorting loyalty into doubt. Dale calmly concluded that like the Forsaken hero, their house too would be eliminated as an internal danger. The Duke listened, astonished by his son's understanding of political manipulation. Dale explained his reasoning, suggesting the Empire relied on war and deceit to diminish competitors. Seeing wisdom beyond his years, the Duke questioned what path House Saxon should pursue next. Dale declared that peace with the Empire could not exist. His gaze blazed with determination as he uttered the forbidden idea to overthrow the Empire. The Duke's anger flared, yet beneath it lingered reluctant comprehension of his son's purpose. Dale clarified his plan as strategy unfolding over 10 years. He described resistance factions emerging throughout the continent and the Empire's increasing instability. Even nobles had begun fearing the crown's oppression as unrest spread across the land. Dale assured that eventually they would gain the strength needed to defend their territory. He suggested supporting resistance forces while secretly building alliances. As evening fell, father and son spoke of their shared destiny. The first ember of rebellion quietly ignited within House Saxon. Lauder eased the tension as the Duke commended his son's intelligence. Dale's perception impressed even his doubtful father. Recognizing his son's growth, the Duke proclaimed Dale no longer a child, but the true heir of House Saxon. The acknowledgement filled the space with solemn pride, the first genuine recognition between father and son. Dale met his father's eyes, his thoughts already focused on what lay ahead. He requested permission to prove himself through the Tower trial, a proposal that startled the Duke. The trial was no simple test that examined one's magic, strength, and resolve, where failure meant death. The Duke detailed the Tower trial's nature, a confrontation with guardians ranking mages by power. Only the most powerful could rise to become a Tower Master. Thou perilous, Dale stood firm, declaring he would soon reach the third circle and prove his ability. The Duke hesitated, aware that even prodigies required years to reach such levels. Yet Dale's resolve burned beyond logic. He aimed to demonstrate his worth to secure House Saxon's future. If successful, his triumph would strengthen both his and his father's position among all nobles. At last, the Duke agreed. Impressed by his son's determination, he allowed Dale to undertake the Tower trial, placing faith in his judgment. Dale bowed respectfully, promising to return victorious the rightful heir of House Saxon, stepping toward destiny. Days later, Dale and his father arrived at the Necropolis, the city of the dead where the Tower trial awaited. Massive gates slowly parted, revealing the ancient stronghold filled with dark legacy guards, and mages stood ready to greet them, marking the start of a long-anticipated challenge. Before the Noir Duke, attendants bowed deeply, acknowledging his formidable reputation. Beside him, Dale struggled to steady his breathing, fatigue catching up after days of preparation. Despite his exhaustion, he straightened himself, determined to face the trial that would shape his fate. The Duke of Saxon enters, drawing attention as murmurs spread among the crowd. Beside him walks his son Dale, the youthful heir known as a gifted magician. Onlookers whisper about Dale's abilities, uncertain if the fragile boy standing before them truly reflects the legend of an extraordinary genius. Among the audience, envy rises. A noble scoffs ridiculing tales of Dale's sword skills, dismissing the stories of brilliance as exaggerated flattery. Velik, the Academy's leading graduate, proclaims his assured triumph in the upcoming Tower trial, receiving approval from those around him. The Duke and Dale advance toward the towering structure, the emblem of magical dominance within the Empire. At the gateway, they are welcomed by Ares, the composed and perceptive elder of the Tower, acting as the Duke's envoy in his absence. The Duke appoints Ares to assist Dale during the approaching trial, placing trust in her guidance over the boy's development. Dale acknowledges the decision with respect, stating his willingness to train under her direction. Imoen escorts him inward, noting that 59 Academy graduates will join the same demanding examination. Within the vast arena, contestants gather beneath radiant sigils, the atmosphere dense with arcane energy. Imoen Irolas addresses them, outlining the Tower trial's regulations, and presenting herself as the supervisor. She begins detailing the system of the challenge, displaying a small enchanted pendant before the participants. Dale observes the pendant closely, listening as Ares explains the one-on-one elimination matches that determine progression. Each pendant contains a single protective spell and a life point, signifying victory or defeat, legendary Prodogy minus when triggered. As the explanation concludes, Dale's eyes sharpen beneath his calm demeanor. A concealed strength awakens. The so-called Prodogy stands ready to validate his legend. As the trial commences, competitors regard Dale with both envy and unease. His presence radiates faint power, the clear sign of a third circle mage at a remarkably young age. Quiet tactics spread among them. Some conclude that removing him early offers their best chance to endure. At Ares' signal, the arena bursts into turmoil. Magic circles ignite and the long-awaited Tower trial begins in earnest. Surges of violet energy crash across the chamber as mages unleash spells. Bursts of mana light up the battlefield. Dale advances steadily through the chaos, forming barriers and deflecting attacks with refined precision. A reckless opponent releases dark energy, yet Dale reacts instantly. The surge of his own force overwhelms the strike entirely. A former towering shadow rises behind Dale. A spectral knight summoned through necromancy swings a blade with immense power. Rivals hesitate, stunned by the flawless blend of summoning and elemental manipulation. A surge of water, magic follows, freezing foes in place as their life points disappear from their pendants. The audience gasped. Dale's mastery of water and dark magic breaks known boundaries, marking him as a dual-element wielder. Those who doubted him now confront his summoned undead, trapped and defeated by relentless accuracy. His voice echoes through the chaos, claiming dominance as his undead forces stand triumphant. Our remaining fighter shouts, summoning ice armor to shield allies. Yet the defense fractures under Dale's relentless power. Cries of unfair play rise. Yet the rules clearly allow necromancy, and Dale's control remains within limits. With a concluding strike, silence falls. The Prodigy stands untouched, proving that skill and strength silenced out more effectively than words. Aris observes intently as Dale's undead forces maintain formation, dark mana illuminating the arena. Velik, struggling to remain composed, orders his companions to break through the summoned army. The group advances, coordinating their attacks, attempting to overpower Dale with sheer numbers. Dale calmly watches the approaching mages, understanding that brute strength alone will not secure victory. He channels energy into his blade, merging dark mana with elemental force, creating a weapon that radiates lethal precision. With a single motion he advances, slicing through enemies with a fluid strike that shatters both magic and defense. One adversary lunges with a sword, but Dale swiftly responds, twisting to evade the strike. Dark energy gathers in his hand, pulsing with deadly intent as he delivers a decisive blow. The foe collapses as the spell erupts while Dale remains steady, eyes fixed on the next opponent. The crowd gasps as Dale's blade cuts through another undead soldier effortlessly. Spectators recognize the reality. His weapon is no ordinary blade, but enhanced through his own magical craft. The sword glimmers faintly, a mark of a mage who commands both creation and destruction. Dale continues his assault, dismantling the remaining undead with unwavering precision. His movements blur between blade and magic, each strike slicing through both light and darkness. As the final opponent falls, Velik watches in shock. The frail noble has defeated all challengers, standing alone beneath the fading glow of the tower trial. The battle continues as Dale's sword skills captivate the audience. His movements seamless and exact. One after another, opponents collapse, unable to rival his speed or control. The final challenger falters, shaking as Dale's eyes meet his. Fear overwhelms him, and surrender leaves his lips before another attack lands. Dale delivers the concluding strike, finishing the battle with unmatched composure. The arena grows silent as the outcome is announced. He stands alone, victorious, achieving the highest score. Lifting his blade slightly, Dale gazes forward with steady resolve, silently, declaring that this victory is only the beginning of his ascent. The trial's second stage opened in eerie stillness. Before the single challenger stood a terrifying guardian of flesh golem, throbbing with power and fury. Previously, groups had united to conquer this challenge, yet now only Dale stood. He had defeated all rivals before reaching the stage. As the beast charged, the boy lifted his hand calmly. The tower's limit on magic had vanished. Every form of sorcery now responded to him. The monster's roar resounded as Dale summoned violet energy, his form cloaked in dark magic. Although artifacts were banned, his natural strength surged past common boundaries. This stage became ideal to refine his next magic circle. The flesh golem advanced once more, but Dale countered with a focused blast, breaking its defense and pushing it backward. The creature faltered as shadows twisted from Dale's palms. Energy warped violently, shaping the spell he called Accelerated Decay. Spectators gasped. The boy's method controlled life force itself, unnatural yet exact. Rather than destroying the golem instantly, Dale corrupted it with spreading decay. He remembered strategies from his former life's battles, naming this method biochemical warfare. The corruption consumed the creature's body, leaving nothing but silence behind. Dale cleared the stage, achieving a record no one had ever matched. Elsewhere, other contestants prepared to recover from the earlier chaos, unaware of his rising strength. That evening, under the moon's glow, Dale stood alone by the fountain, calm, calculating, and prepared for the next stage. After the trial, Dale encountered Sifia, his mentor, who praised his achievement. Her composed words carry the authority of both teacher and mage. Dale modestly credited her lessons, earning a rare expression of pride from her. For once, the distance between them felt lighter. When he invited her to join him on a date, Sophia paused, caught between shock and disbelief. Dale eagerly mentioned a city festival, drawing her focus away from confusion. Though unsure, Sophia agreed, uncertain of his meaning, yet intrigued by his sincerity. As they walked together, she realized he likely misunderstood what a date meant, yet his honesty softened her gaze. The streets filled with light and joy as fireworks illuminated the night sky. Dale stayed composed, insisting he felt no exhaustion after the intense trial. They wandered through the crowd in quiet companionship, watching the night unfold above beneath the moonlight. Sophia commented on its beauty. Dale quietly agreed, deepening the silence between them. The quiet was not uncomfortable. It carried warmth and familiarity built from countless lessons and trust. Dale understood he felt at ease with her because she had always trusted him. In the days that followed, Dale trained to exceed his limits. Reflecting on Sophia's guidance about confronting one's inner self, he pushed his mana beyond its natural limit, his body shaking from the pressure. As his power steadied, the third magic circle formed, marking the moment he truly grasped Sophia's teachings. 3 radiant circles, blue, violet, and red, appeared before Dale, each pulsing with uncontrolled mana. The strength of his third circle had reached its height. As energy surged, a dark shard appeared in his hand, its presence drawing him into an endless void. When his eyes opened, he stood within a frozen forest of light, his inner realm silent and empty. Dale realized this space reflected his soul, a vacant world awaiting purpose. Within the frozen silence, visions of Sophia appeared, her voice guiding him toward understanding. He realized then that she was the light shaping his world, the anchor within his emptiness. Returning to that festival night, Dale's heart no longer wavered. Standing before Sophia, he confessed simply that he liked her. The words carried no fear or doubt. Sophia paused, surprised by the sudden honesty in his voice. Then, smiling gently, Sophia embraced him. The warmth of her magic aligned with his heartbeat. Dale confessed she felt the same, recognizing the bond that had formed between them. Beneath the moonlight, they shared a silent understanding before the dawn of the next trial. Days later, the 11th tier trial began. Dale entered the arena, composed yet alert. Opposite him stood Albert Rosenheim, an experienced third circle mage exuding confidence. Dale bowed respectfully, prepared to face the duel not as a boy seeking approval, but as a mage ready to prove his strength. The 11th trial started, allowing full use of artifacts and mage tactics. The arena glowed with arcane symbols as the duel unfolded. Dale stood firm, his mana steady and prepared. The life necklace's protection no longer applied. This was a real battle. With steady resolve, he focused his power, ready to demonstrate his mastery. As Albert released his first dark spell, Albert fired several dark arrows, his confidence unshaken as violet energy filled the space. The assault descended in waves, cutting through the arena's glowing barriers. Dale watched the incoming magic without fear, ready to respond. His eyes narrowed, his hand raised, determined to counter with precision rather than panic. An experienced mage lifts a radiant orb, its violet energy trembling through the air as he prepares his final spell. The blast rips across the arena, dark light engulfing everything as the young fighter barely evades the strike. Smoke drifts upward from the ground, and within it stands Dale, eyes burning with focus, his posture. Despite the devastation, the noble audience murmurs quietly, stunned that a child continues to endure against a master-level sorcerer. The mage chants once more, conjuring skeletal warriors from violet flames, creeping along the ground. Dale tightens his gaze, steadying his breathing. The dead stand before him, yet his will refuses to break. Bolts of dark mana descend from above, forcing Dale to dash across the fractured surface. Each impact erupts behind him, rattling the arena as the mage pushes his assault. The spectators watch in silence, realizing the boy's movements are not random. They are calculated survival. The opponent releases another spell, Death Explosion, filling the battlefield with deadly violet energy. The surge crashes forward, consuming everything ahead, leaving the mage grinning in triumph. Yet, as the smoke fades, the figure he struck has vanished. Only a faint distortion lingers. Perplexed, the mage searches the arena, his confidence beginning to falter. A voice suddenly echoes behind him, cold and sharp, questioning if exploiting a child brings him pride. He turns, eyes widening. The boy he believed defeated now stands unharmed, his power quietly rising. The arena grows still as the mage scans his surroundings, fear building when he cannot sense Dale anywhere. A chilling voice sounds from behind him, mocking his shaken composure. Shadows gather around Dale like drifting mist. As darkness spreads, Dale activates his skill Wraith transformation, his aura becoming ghost-like and dense with lethal intent. The mage's magic surges uncontrollably, summoning chaotic spirits that howl with hunger. Dale smiles faintly and releases his Wraith, a terrifying entity that lunges at its target. Cries resound as the creature consumes the mage's mana, leaving him writhing in pain on the ground. The boy observes quietly as his opponent collapses, completely drained of strength. He commands the Wraith to withdraw, its form dissolving into dark vapor. As silence settles, the announcer proclaims Dale the winner of the opening round. Dale turns to the remaining challengers, asking who will face him next. One after another they concede, unwilling to share the same fate. The tower's battles end quickly, Dale claiming victory in every match without effort. Days pass as he refines his 3 magic circles, confronting powerful guardians at each level. Upon reaching the 20th floor, a new opponent appears, a towering knight clad in crimson armor. The headless knight, guardian of the upper tower, unsheathes his blade. Dale prepares himself, sensing a battle unlike any before. The Crimson Knight advances, declaring Dale unworthy of ascending further. Shadows swirl across the ground as the knight raises his weapon, his presence heavier than any prior foe. Dale steadies himself, his eyes glowing faint blue as his power gathers for the impending clash. The knight suddenly kneels, lowering his sword before Dale. The crowd gasps in shock. A cold stillness fills the arena as icy radiance surrounds both figures. The knight complies without hesitation, driving his own blade into his chest under Dale's command. The armored body falls with a hollow sound, lifeless yet strangely serene. Dale watches quietly, recognizing the knight's absolute loyalty, even in death. He exhales softly, admitting inwardly that his strength may have exceeded expectations. The audience whispers in awe, realizing the boy has surpassed even the tower elders. Dale turns away, deciding his climb should end here. Though capable of advancing further, he knows the next stage conceals something beyond human understanding. Light fills the chamber as Dale leaves the tower, completing the final trial. Outside, nobles and mages bow in respect. The young prodigy has united the northern lands under his name. Standing beneath the bright sky, Dale looks upward, his journey far from finished, but his legend firmly established. Snow covered the northern empire as warriors gathered beneath the Saxon banner. The battlefield expanded endlessly, filled with the clash of blades and cries of soldiers struggling to survive. At the front lines, a young knight surged ahead, dark armor reflecting beneath the winter sun. His actions were exact, refined beyond his age, and his eyes blazed with determination. With every blow, foes collapsed before him. His troops advanced with renewed strength, shouting his name and their house's legacy. Saxon's honor shaped through his courage. The triumph was overwhelming. At merely 10 years old, Dale Saxon had commanded the extermination force against the Orc army. His leadership inspired both awe and disbelief. Despite his age, none challenged his authority. His strategies were impeccable, his determination untouched by the brutality of battle. He stood among defeated enemies, his sword stained with triumph, marking the emergence of a prodigy destined to unify the north within Saxon Castle. The Duke examined the reports. 145 orcs defeated, a knight declared, as Dale stood quietly beside him. When asked about casualties, Dale reported only slight injuries. No magic had been employed, only planning and discipline. The Duke's expression softened slightly. The boy had depended not on magic but on skill, a mark of true leadership. Recognition followed. Excellent work, Dale. The Duke praised, his voice composed yet proud. The chamber filled with approving nods. Dale credited his success to his mentor, Sir Helmet, who had taught him warfare and leadership beyond his years. Even experienced knights acknowledged his development to them. The boy was no longer a child, but the heir of a revived legacy. Training resumed shortly afterward. Dale sparred intensely, his blade becoming quicker and sharper with each exchange. An attack came from his opponent, a swift motion. Yet Dale deflected it, countering with precision and composed focus. Perspiration formed on his forehead as he steadied his weapon. Within those youthful eyes burned the resolve of a future duke, unbreakable, disciplined, and bound for greatness. On the practice field, Charlotte stood ready with her rapier, her emerald gaze fixed on Dale. Her posture was precise, her movements refined through endless training. Though she accepted his superiority, she pressed forward, determined to close the distance between them. Dale, calm and collected, responded with controlled precision. Despite her pride, Charlotte could not conceal her admiration for Dale's improvement. His progress was unmatched both as a mage and a swordsman. Dale encouraged her, his tone steady and supportive. He trusted her strength and reminded her of her progress. Charlotte blushed at his words, irritation blending with embarrassment. She disliked being seen as inferior, even when his praise was sincere. Yet deep within, she understood his recognition held meaning, proof that she too was growing stronger under his influence. Their sparring continued, laughter and rivalry mixing beneath the clear sky. Dale's calm demeanor contrasted with Charlotte's fiery nature. Their playful dispute about who was the child revealed their youth, yet also the maturity shaped by constant practice. As the sun climbed higher, Dale was summoned away. His mentor awaited the next lesson to refine his tactical thinking. Inside the study, Dale sat opposite Sir Helmet as the veteran knight instructed him on battlefield strategy. Maps and markers covered the table. They examined flanking tactics and cavalry assaults, envisioning troops moving like chess pieces across icy plains. Every lesson Helmet delivered etched itself into Dale's mind, shaping him into a future leader whose intellect rivaled seasoned commanders. Their discussion intensified as Helmet praised Dale's sharp reasoning. The young prodigy's understanding of strategy surpassed his years. Helmet then asked about Charlotte's improvement, sincerely impressed by her determination to match Dale's relentless growth. As the two trained nearby, teacher and student understood one truth: the next generation of Saxon would shine with unmatched brilliance. Charlotte's blade shimmered with green mana, her command of the sword already clear at her young age. Her movements carried the promise of a future knight. Dale watched her progress, noticing how her base resembled his own. Yet he identified a weakness, a constraint connected to her path of cultivation. While mages developed mana through inner concentration, knights like Charlotte molded aura through constant discipline, forming systems through shared technique and resolve. Dale considered these ideas quietly. Each lesson felt like a step shaping him for something beyond. Charlotte's training grew harsher, her aura cutting through the air with sharp precision as she faced Dale once more. Their clash rang across the courtyard, a display of strength and intent between two prodigies driving each other toward mastery. Far beyond their practice, the black cavalry of the north surged across lands like thunder, emblems of Saxon's unstoppable strength. Helmet's elite force, the Night-Crowned Knights, represented absolute power, overwhelming foes with crushing force. Charlotte's style, however, moved with elegance and speed, her attacks swift and exact, marking her as a promising swordswoman. Despite her talent, Helmet anticipated her ceiling. The famed first sword, her father's title, remained unattainable for her. The art of the Sword of Blossom, a refined yet lethal technique, had been lost to history, disappearing with the fall of the Night Kingdom. Only faint rumors of its grace and might remained, leaving those aware of it wondering if it might ever resurface. Dale reflected on the forgotten art, his gaze fixed upon the chessboard as Helmet's training became more demanding. Each day merged battle and study. Dale commanded troops in real conflicts while absorbing ancient strategies. His reputation spread across the north, a youthful commander whose intellect surpassed any blade, destined to exceed even the finest knights. The Duke received concerning news a border dispute had arisen over a copper mine near Saxon territory. A nearby baron had submitted a claim, raising tensions into a territorial conflict that could not be overlooked. Though the Duke viewed the issue as trivial, refusal would portray Saxon as weak among rival nobles. Count Brandenburg's alliance with the Baron intensified the provocation, turning the dispute into a calculated political move. They proposed deploying the Knight Order of St. Magdalene, demanding a portion of the mine's revenue. Dale understood the scheme's purpose, retaliation for past disgrace, and resolved to confront their challenge with equal resolve. Dale stood with assurance, having unraveled Count Brandenburg's scheme and clearly grasped the provocation. The Count exploited a calculated loophole to advance a concealed ambition. A memory surfaced showing the Count's enduring resentment dating back to his disgrace at Duke Noir's hands. Still, he could not risk open confrontation, triggering war between noble houses. To avoid that danger, he stirred conflict across contested territory, hoping to lure the Saxon family into battle without direct accountability. Dale's recognition of this tactic showed his sharpening strategic mind. Dale volunteered to personally lead the knights into combat, eager to demonstrate his preparedness. He felt the burden of family duty and wished to respond decisively. Yet his father firmly denied the proposal. He stressed that battling humans differed greatly from hunting monsters. War required far more than raw power alone. Instead, the Duke chose to confront the issue himself. He assured Baron Greenbelt that the mines would remain under his protection. Though Dale accepted the decision, disappointment lingered in his gaze. He longed to contribute and validate his abilities. Frustrated, Dale reassured himself of his competence. He struggled to understand why his father withheld trust from him. A knight comforted Dale, encouraging him not to lose heart. Surely the Duke's actions were guided by deeper reasoning. To cheer him up, the knight revealed a surprise. He invited Dale to learn a strategic game that mirrored real combat. Dale grew curious as the game closely resembled chess. It appeared to replicate battlefield tactics and leadership choices. The knight explained that mastering this game could benefit Dale immensely. It would sharpen his thinking for genuine military situations. Eagerly, the knight proposed they play together and explore strategies in depth. But before beginning, Dale conceived an idea. He hurried off suddenly, leaving the knight puzzled. Dale intended to prove something important. Returning to his father, Dale suggested a wager if he defeated the Duke in the game. He wished to earn permission to join the battle. Dale asserted confidently that warfare relied not only on strength, but also on strategy. His aim was evident, proving readiness through intellect. The Duke stayed silent, attentively observing the boy's determination. Although an aide tried to step in, the Duke allowed the challenge uninterrupted. The Duke set a condition. Victory in the match would grant Dale permission to enter the war. Dale agreed instantly. The Duke cautioned that defeat would end any talk of joining combat. Both fully understood the gravity of the agreement. The match commenced. The room grew tense as they competed in a silent yet intense environment. The knight observed in astonishment. Despite his youth, Dale made calculated moves, displaying composure beyond his years. After an extended match, Dale emerged victorious. His strategy surpassed the Duke's, even though the Duke played seriously. The knight praised Dale's effective use of positioning and resources. Amazed by the boy's dominant performance, having won 2 of 3 rounds, Dale looked toward his father, anticipating the promised reward. The Duke questioned where Dale had learned the game. Dale falsely claimed he had studied an old rulebook years before. Privately, Dale knew this explanation was untrue. Revealing reality would invite suspicion about his unusual insight. Keeping his promise, the Duke entrusted Dale with full command of the knights for the upcoming battle. The Duke reminded Dale of the weight he now bore. The family's reputation would hinge entirely upon the final result. He questioned Dale once more, asking if he could manage the responsibility completely by himself. With firm resolve, Dale confirmed his readiness, promising to demonstrate his worth through the approaching trial. The Duke granted his consent. He anticipated his son would display the strength he had developed and come back triumphant from the battlefield. At the same time, within House Brandenburg's fortress, whispers began circulating. Brandenburg that House Saxon's heir would personally command forces in the conflict. The Count doubted the report's validity. His son seemed unconcerned, yet tried to assure him that there was nothing to worry about. Philip, the Count's eldest son, scornfully rejected the rumors. He ridiculed Dale, calling him merely a 10-year-old boy driven to prove himself. Philip requested approval to defeat Dale using their knights. He considered the task beneath his true skill. In reaction, Count Brandenburg slapped him harshly. He was enraged by his son's arrogance and failure to recognize Dale's true ability. Count Brandenburg erupted in anger. He reminded Philip that Dale was no ordinary child, but someone Philip would never surpass. With disdain, the Count labeled Philip inferior to the boy he insulted. His dissatisfaction with his son's weakness was unmistakable. Even so, he permitted Philip to command troops, though his confidence was clearly limited. Philip accepted anxiously, still unsettled. The Count explained that Philip's position was only ceremonial. Real authority over the forces would belong to Sir Melvus, guaranteeing leadership remain in capable hands. Philip was shocked by this ruling. His father had removed his genuine authority. Sir Melvus guided Philip away, leaving the Count irritated. He longed to confront Saxon directly, but felt restricted by his opponent's youth. Seething, Count Brandenburg recognized that the Duke had orchestrated everything brilliantly. He angrily cursed Duke Saxon's tactics aloud. Elsewhere, Dale enjoyed a proud moment with his knights, his confidence strengthened, encouraged by those supporting him. Within Baron Greenbelt's lands, calm briefly returned. Still, the movement of troops showed the conflict was not yet finished. Dale reached Baron Greenbelt's fortress, welcomed with full ceremonial respect by soldiers and retainers. Despite his youth, he carried himself with steady composure. Baron Greenbelt's belt greeted him, kindly expressing gratitude for his arrival. Meanwhile, nearby knights quietly questioned Dale's age and physical strength. Despite their doubts, the Baron voiced confidence in Dale, stating his presence reassured the entire region. Dale responded with thanks, keeping a composed and professional attitude. Privately, the Baron felt uneasy. Assigning such duty to a 10-year-old seemed careless, even with skilled knights beside Dale. With a courteous smile, he invited Dale to a banquet. Yet Dale refused immediately, emphasizing that no time could be wasted. Taken aback, the Baron sought an explanation. Dale's serious tone suggested urgent concerns he refused to postpone. Suddenly, Dale unsheathed his sword and aimed it toward the Baron. Dale announced his intention to personally examine the troops. He wanted direct understanding of their present state. Calm yet firm, Dale posed a critical question among the soldiers who possessed the greatest strength his command had truly begun. Baron Greenbelt is held at knife point, shaking under intense pressure. Dale exuding authority despite his youth. His question is direct but filled with an unspoken challenge. Dale coolly asks who the strongest man is among the knight's subordinates. He isn't looking for casual replies. He wants proof of power. One knight steps forward boldly and answers, "It's me, young master." Dale, unmoved, receives his claim with quiet focus around them. Tension rises. The red-haired knight arrogantly brags about his strength. He insists no one nearby is capable of defeating him. He turns to ridicule, belittling Dale by accusing him of depending on noble status. His tone drips with scorn, dismissing the boy as an unworthy fighter. With a patronizing stare, he vows to put Dale in his place. Dale stays silent yet attentive, his piercing gaze showing no fear, only readiness. Dale calmly lowers the blade that had previously threatened Baron Greenbelt. The observing knight is taken aback by Dale's calm composure and surprising confidence. He addresses those present, pointing out their skepticism about his strength. He steps forward alone, showing no hesitation even before armed knights. Dale admits their disbelief comes from his age, reminding them he was sent into battle without warning. He starts to prove that youth is no barrier to his ability. Dale voices his own doubts about the knight's skill, questioning their competence. He suggests settling matters not with words but through a duel. With a sly smile, Dale points out the irony. The knight who claimed to be the strongest is clearly drunk, weakening his own credibility. Dale smirks, satisfied. He declares that the knight's behavior is enough proof. There's no need to challenge him. The red-haired knight reacts bitterly to the insult, his pride wounded. His anger rises as Dale questions his courage. Sword drawn, the knight accepts Dale's silent challenge. He rushes forward, determined to silence the young master's provocation. Their blades meet beneath the moonlight. Dale doesn't flinch. The knight hesitates mid-strike, startled by Dale's calm stance and overwhelming presence. Harbuk, the red-haired knight, declares his name with pride, swearing to uphold the honor of the Baron's sword. His voice trembles faintly. Dale, young yet steady, stares back calmly. His confident smirk shows that he does not see Harbuk as a threat, only a loud obstacle surrounded by watchers. Harbuk and Dale face off. The training field grows silent as tension builds. One is a seasoned knight, the other a 10-year-old prodigy. Harbuk mocks Dale, asking if he's heard of his renowned swordsmanship. He laughs loudly, projecting false bravado while preparing his stance. Dale replies without hesitation, acknowledging the knight's sword with feigned interest. Internally, he wonders where such confidence comes from in a man who seemed barely sober moments earlier. Harbuk, ignoring Dale's response, charges forward with full force. With sword raised, he shouts and begins the duel without restraint. The clash starts with Harbuk lunging forward. His strike is aggressive but lacks accuracy. The impact of his foot hitting the ground echoes across the field. Dale remains composed and sidesteps the attack. Their swords collide midair, a sudden burst of force flashing between them. The young boy counters smoothly, his sword infused with dark energy. A shadowy aura begins to swirl around him, contrasting Harbuk's brute force with eerie control. Harbuk roars and swings repeatedly. Despite the intensity, Dale blocks every strike effortlessly. His small frame slips through the assault, his expression unchanged. Dale's sword glows with energy, yet it shows no visible aura. Harbuk is confused. The boy's strength shouldn't be possible without it. Harbuk reflects briefly. He notes that only a few elite knights can wield aura blades, yet Dale seems to surpass their level effortlessly. Still clinging to pride, Harbuk tells himself he should give his best in return. He charges again, this time with greater focus. But Dale is already ahead of him. With dark energy surging, he summons a mysterious force that spreads like smoke from the ground beneath him. Harbuk stops in shock. The black tendrils twist around him, distorting space. Confused and overwhelmed, he shouts, unsure what this ominous power even is. Harbuk is caught off guard by the black energy surging around him. It disrupts his senses and his confident expression fades into panic. He swings his sword wildly to push back the oppressive force, but it keeps closing in, surrounding him from all sides. Frustrated, Harbuk grits his teeth. He realizes Dale's assault shows no signs of stopping, and the magical interference from the artifact is clouding his ability to focus and counterattack properly. Dale calmly stands in place, deflecting Harbuk's desperate strikes with minimal effort. His left hand channels the artifact's power into a violet barrier. Watching the situation unfold, Dale quietly evaluates Harbuk's abilities. Despite all the noise and aggression, he decides that the knight's technique is lacking for someone of his rank. His eyes narrow faintly as something draws his focus mid-fight. His expression changes slightly. He falls to the ground in pain, groaning while clutching his side. Dale observes silently, his sword still prepared. The nearby soldiers hurry to Harbuk's side, calling his name in alarm. They are shocked that the proud knight had been defeated so quickly. Dale blinks in surprise. He quietly questions whether Harbuk was truly beaten that easily, or if it is some sort of staged act. Baron Greenbelt panics, raising his voice toward Dale. He accuses the boy of disabling a crucial knight just before an important battle, his face filled with concern. Dale listens without reaction, allowing the man to finish. His sword remains lowered, and his composure stays steady despite the Baron's scolding. With cold precision, Dale calls the Baron by name, his voice sharp, a warning that Greenbelt may not fully understand the reality of his situation. Dale states that with such poor skills, Greenbelt's forces would only become a burden in the upcoming battle, not a support. He questions whether the Baron intended to hide behind the Saxon house and let them bear all the responsibility alone. The Baron stammers in confusion. Dale stares at Harbuk, questioning whether this is truly the man they call their strongest. Harbuk lowers his head, ashamed and silent. Dale addresses the soldiers firmly. He reminds them that the Saxon house has always stood at the front as the shield for allied families. He shifts his gaze toward Harbuk and Baron Greenbelt, stating clearly that loyalty to the cause does not give them the right to ignore their duties. With strong conviction, Dale declares that until the next battle, the Knights of the Saxon Duchy will act as the blade protecting Greenbelt's men. Standing tall before the gathered troops, Dale gives them a choice, his voice calm yet firm. He presents them with a clear path: either follow his command in the coming battles or lose the land they claim to defend due to their inaction and weakness. Moved by his strength and presence, the knights begin to kneel one after another, acknowledging his authority as a leader. Dale accepts their response, a united declaration of loyalty from the once uncertain knights. As the scene transitions into night, the view shifts to a noble estate beneath the moonlight, signaling a return to the political center of power. Inside, the Duke calmly reassures another that there is nothing to fear, his words reflecting confidence in what has occurred. The Duke continues, explaining that Dale holds far greater potential than even they had expected, his expression serious yet hopeful. The Duke states that once Dale matures, he will witness things that even experienced nobles cannot understand. His belief in Dale's future is unwavering. His gaze turns toward the balcony as he smiles faintly. The Duke already seems certain that Dale's role in the world will grow far beyond what anyone can foresee. Elsewhere, Dale sits alone in his room, struggling with doubt. He recalls the praise given to him and wonders if he truly lives up to it. His thoughts spiral. He calls himself a frog in a well, someone who lived blindly within a small world. Yet as those thoughts fade, determination fills his eyes with a new goal forming in his heart. He decides to move forward. The next day rises bright over the castle grounds. Knights are already training hard beneath the clear sky, pushing their limits through harsh drills. Harbuk, soaked in sweat, struggles as he drags a massive boulder tied to his back. His breathing grows heavier with each step, his legs shaking from the strain. Eventually, he collapses from exhaustion, pleading for rest. But a commanding voice shouts that it is too early to stop. The training has only just started. Dale watches from a shaded throne, calmly observing the knights' hardship. He mocks their weakness, calling them unworthy of knighthood. As Harbuk groans, Dale dismisses his injury, ordering Baron Greenbelt to personally supervise all training from stamina to swordsmanship. Dale then instructs the Baron to begin peace negotiations with their enemies, not to surrender but to uncover the enemy's battle timeline, a strategic move hidden within diplomacy. At the disputed border between two baronies, a large negotiation tent stood surrounded by alert guards. The atmosphere was strained as both factions understood the importance of the outcome. Inside the tent, delegates from one side had already arrived. Among them was the young noble Dale, seated calmly beside his imposing knight escort. Dale understood the urgency with enemy movements increasing. He calculated that they had only a few weeks before conflict escalated into full-scale war. The Knight Order of St. Magdalene was currently engaged in a cross-continental campaign. Dale knew their logistical issues made them prone to reckless preemptive attacks, especially to capture supply-rich lands like theirs. Baron Parker, a rival noble, commanded elite knight forces that had yet to reveal their full strength. Intelligence suggested that his faction was seeking a chance to gain early advantage by launching surprise strikes. At that moment, Lord Philip, one of Baron Parker's commanders, entered the tent with his entourage. The negotiation was about to begin, but it was already clear this was more than diplomacy. Dale smirked faintly. He had anticipated these two. They were the usual front used by the opposing side to display dominance. Yet Dale saw through the facade immediately. Philip, armored and composed, stood confidently. However, Dale recognized him not as a strategist but merely a figurehead placed to speak loudly while others pulled the strings. Behind Philip stood Sir Milas, a calm presence with calculating eyes. Dale instantly identified him as the real mind behind the operation, the one directing the true decisions behind the scenes. Dale greeted Philip with a calm expression, observing the arrogant smile that met him in return. Philip laughed dismissively, already underestimating his young opponent. Philip mocked the very idea of negotiation, implying that Dale's request came from fear rather than strategy. Unmoved by the mocking tone, Dale remained silent, watching Philip closely. His lack of response only heightened the tension, drawing focus to what and who truly mattered in the room. Philip continued, demanding to know Dale's reason for proposing negotiations, clearly expecting to dominate the room and control the discussion from the beginning. Dale calmly cut him off, clarifying that his question was not intended for Philip. The room shifted slightly. With sharp precision, Dale addressed Sir Milas directly, dismissing Philip as a puppet and acknowledging Milas as the true commander and proper target of negotiation. Dale revealed Milas's identity as the Pure Sword, a known holy swordsman. The revelation caused a clear reaction in both Milas and Philip. Philip, confused and shaken, questioned Dale's words, unsure how the young noble knew such sensitive information, but Dale remained composed, pressing forward without hesitation. He explained his reasoning bluntly. No army would be entrusted to someone so incompetent unless their true commander was someone like Milas. Milas, attempting to steady the atmosphere, warned Philip not to be influenced. But Dale's words had already disturbed Philip, exposing cracks in their alliance's leadership structure. Dale's remarks weren't just speculation, they showed deep insight. He revealed the hidden contempt that Count Brandenburg held for Philip, calling him a disgrace. That fact had been carefully concealed, known only to a few within their ranks. Milas silently wondered how Dale, an outsider, had discovered such a humiliating truth. Enraged and humiliated, Milas declared the negotiation finished. Standing abruptly, his pride too wounded to continue. Milas supported Philip's departure, stating there was no longer any reason to stay. But Dale interrupted with a sharp observation. He questioned why Milas, a subordinate, was giving Philip orders and why Philip obeyed so quickly without resistance. Dale pointed out that Philip, by accepting commands from a lower-ranked man, appeared like a servant rather than a noble heir. He pushed further, mocking Philip. The man meant to be the Count's heir was nothing more than a puppet on strings. Philip burned with anger, the insult striking deep. He repeated Dale's words in disbelief, his voice tight. Milas, alarmed by Philip's reaction, attempted to intervene once more. Dale remained seated calmly while Philip yelled in frustration. His composure only deepened the imbalance of power between them. With a steady tone, Dale remarked that even he was no longer certain who was truly in control, whether Philip was simply acting under a holy swordsman's will, or worse, nothing more than a puppet under Milas's strings. The accusations struck true. Philip looked ready to erupt while Milas tried to hold him back. Dale's strategy had always been psychological warfare, breaking the enemy's structure by attacking their chain of command before the battle even started. With a smirk, he admitted that negotiations were never his true goal. His presence and words were designed to create confusion. Dale then instructed his knight, Sir Bale, to step outside. The knight acknowledged the order respectfully, leaving without hesitation, a quiet display of the trust and discipline that defined Dale's command. Dale proposed continuing the discussion privately. The tone had changed. This was no longer a public display but a direct confrontation between equals. He suggested that the two of them speak not as representatives under ducal banners, but as the highest-ranking commanders personally responsible for the outcome of the conflict. Philip clenched his fist. The proposal challenged his pride but also appealed to his hidden need to prove himself, especially after being repeatedly undermined by his own men. In a sudden burst, Philip agreed, shouting for Sir Milas to leave the tent, using the moment to reassert his authority. Milas attempted to resist, clearly sensing a trap, but Philip insisted. He demanded obedience, claiming his rank as the highest commander and taking full responsibility for what followed. Cornered by his superior's demand, Milas reluctantly stepped back, visibly uneasy, with no choice but to trust Philip's decision in that moment. With Milas gone, Dale calmly expressed his appreciation for Philip's cooperation. Despite his earlier manipulation, Dale's tone was respectful, reinforcing that the real game was just beginning. He reminded Philip that the meeting had always been framed as a negotiation. The return to diplomacy was subtle but strategic. Dale had created the chaos, and now he offered order. Philip, now carrying the full burden, demanded to know whether Dale had anything meaningful to offer. Dale confirmed with confidence, signaling he was about to present terms that could change the course of the battle. Dale put forward an unexpected condition. If the Knight Order of St. Magdalene withdrew from the battlefield, House Saxon would fully support their retreat. It was a direct offer, no deception, just logistics and opportunity. By appealing to logic instead of pride, Dale reframed the war as a solvable issue of survival and supply. Philip, caught off guard, could only respond with stunned disbelief, his expression betraying how thoroughly Dale's strategy had thrown him off balance. Philip slammed the table, demanding to know whether Dale truly believed such terms qualified as negotiation. Dale answered calmly, confirming his intent. He acknowledged the harshness of his earlier remarks and offered a courteous apology. Without raising his voice, he outlined the consequences of rejection. The opposing army would be crushed, knights would be captured, and reputations would be destroyed, especially that of the famed holy swordsman. Dale pressed further, making it clear that this was Philip's last chance to withdraw with dignity. The threat was wrapped in diplomacy. Philip laughed bitterly, finally understanding what Sir Mellis had warned him about. He accused Dale of having mocked them from the very beginning, his face twisted with anger. Meanwhile, Dale observed quietly, his hands folded in a gesture of control. Offering no denial, Philip declared the discussion finished, standing up and signaling the end of talks, though his voice carried unmistakable uncertainty. Yet even now, Dale remained calm. He questioned whether Philip truly feared nothing, not even the disgrace he would face when their forces failed. Dale made it clear that the blame would not fall on Mellis, the real commander, but on Philip, the incompetent heir who had foolishly thrust himself into the spotlight. Dale's smile sharpened as he predicted that Philip would be remembered not as a noble but as a failure. Still trying to regain control, Philip snapped back, insisting Dale would not remain so confident for long. His threat lacked strength, empty against the storm of logic Dale had laid before him. Philip swore to prove his worth before everyone, but Dale responded with a sly smirk, urging him to hold on to that confidence for it would soon break. The negotiations had fully collapsed. Dale had succeeded in destabilizing the enemy without ever drawing a sword. Back at Greenbelt Barony, the opposing side began preparing. The tension from the failed meeting quickly translated into battlefield movements. Scouts reported the situation. The Knights of House Saxon, under Dale's leadership, had begun mobilizing. War was now unavoidable. Mellis reflected on Dale's sharp gaze and commanding presence. Despite being only 10 years old, Dale possessed the composure of a seasoned strategist. Mellis realized that Dale was no ordinary child. He carried the weight of House Saxon and posed a real threat if allowed to grow further. Determined to stop Dale from reaching his full potential, Mellis gripped his sword and proposed a decisive action to eliminate the young commander before he could rise any higher. With Mellis leading the front, enemy knights launched their charge, confident they would crush the boy who had mocked them during negotiations. From the walls, Dale's forces watched the enemy's movements. Alerted to their advance, Dale remained composed, acknowledging the report with approval. Standing tall in full armor, he rallied his troops, calling the soldiers of House Saxon to battle, to shed blood in honor of their name.